Live from Chatterbox Sports Studios, it's Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman.
Well, good morning, and a pleasant good Friday morning to each and every one of you. The weekend is nearly upon us. And we welcome you to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Tom Brenneman. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 A to noon P. You can find us, follow us, as we stream live on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports. We also stream every day live on Facebook, the Chatterbox Sports page. And if you'd prefer to join us in podcast form, just search Off the Bench with Tom Brenneman, wherever you find your podcast, and you're dialed in. I tell you what, and look, you can see it just as well as I can. The Reds, without a doubt, have something special in Nick Lodolo. One of the traits of a good pitcher is when you go to the mound against a good big league team and big league hitters with less than your best stuff, and you still find a way to shut them down. That was Nick Lodolo last night. The TCU alum struggled with his command, didn't have good location on his fastball. He struggled with his breaking ball, which is normally very good, yet he battled, and it was good enough to go 5 innings, 2-run baseball. He struck out 6. Did throw nearly 100 pitches in 5 innings. Remember now, this was back-to-back starts for Lodolo against Philadelphia. The last time when he did have his good stuff, he went 7 and struck out 12. A rare accomplishment. The Reds get great work from their bullpen. 4 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball. They beat Philadelphia in the opener of that 4-game series at GABP, 6-2, the final score. Game 2 of the series tonight. Tickets are available. Connor over. Why are you laughing at that?
No reason. Tickets are available, Tom.
Casey, Paul, good morning. Look at Casey donning the Reds jacket, the jersey or jacket? Jersey. And Reds lid.
Yeah. They won, so I decided to wear some of this. And then I'm also going to the game, so.
Fireworks Friday. Dialed in.
Nice.
We're going to get a big win.
Who are you going with?
I'm going with Sir Boy.
Sir Boy Wonder?
Wait, are you actually?
Yeah.
Nice.
He offered tickets yesterday, and I said, man, I wish I could go. I would go another time. And he said, what about tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure, why not? So
That's awesome. Yeah, we totally missed the boat on that yesterday. He offered first row in the Scouts Club right behind the plate. He tweeted at Chatterbox, and we were in meetings all day, and we got out, and we had missed it. And
Well, he says right here after the debacle we call a show yesterday in Casey's behavior, he says, Casey ain't going to ban me today.
no, I'm not. I don't have any power anymore, so no bans.
You were stripped of your powers?
I was. Chatterbox Sports took them away from me. So now I no longer have the ability to ban.
I think that's a bit drastic, taking away your banning powers. Because we do get some clowns in from time to time. Most of the time, pretty good. But
Well, as long as the chat forgives me, I guess I can regain some of my power and control of the chat.
First pitch tonight, by the way, is at 6:40. And Casey will be there with Sir Boy Wonder. The story, though, in Major League Baseball continues to be the extraordinary start of the Tampa Bay Rays. They tied a Major League record, their 13th consecutive win to start the season. Just blew Boston out 9-3, scored 7 runs in the 5th inning. They go for the all-time record, modern-day record, of 14 straight. That is tonight in Toronto. Did you get a attendance? I don't know if baseball has intentionally done this and gotten the press to go along with them or whatever, but no longer in the Major League Baseball box scores do you find attendance numbers.
Oh, really?
Nowhere. If you go to ESPN, click on the box score, they have everything you want to know about the entire game, a play-by-play of the entire game if you so choose it.
You want to know what the attendance is for the Rays really quickly?
What was the Rays' attendance yesterday?
The Rays' attendance yesterday
was
21,175.
All right. Very nice. Maybe they're trying to save the franchise. How about the Tigers manager, A.J. Hinch? Did you see this story? All right. Yesterday, he watches Javier Baez, former Cub. Guy's been a great player for a long time, right? Not so much last year after signing the big deal with Detroit. But Baez hits a ball. He starts jogging out of the box. He thinks he has a home run. It wasn't. He was lucky to get a double because he was jogging. Then Baez at second base forgot how many outs there were. And on a routine fly ball, he runs into a double play to end the inning. So once Baez comes back into the dugout, his manager, Hinch, escorts him away from the view of the cameras, down the steps of the dugout, and promptly pulls him out of the game. Now, Hinch did say Baez is normally one of the team's smarter players, but that he felt like he had to send a message to his player and his team. Says they've been very sloppy from a mental standpoint lately. Baez, to his credit, said after the game he respects the manager's decision. Atlanta shortstop Orlando Arcia is out indefinitely with a fracture in his left wrist. Arcia, who's off to a great start, was hit with a Hunter Green fastball on Wednesday night in Atlanta. In the NBA, final 2 play-in games tonight. Final 2 spots in the postseason to be determined. In the East, Chicago goes to Miami, and the winner will face Milwaukee, the top seed in the East, in the opening round. Out west, Oklahoma City travels to Minnesota. The winner of that game faces a number 1 seed, Denver Nuggets. First round series, 4 of them begin tomorrow, including Cleveland and the Knicks at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. I noticed Casey's going to the Reds game tonight because he can't be anywhere else than in front of a television tomorrow night.
Correct.
That would be to watch FC Cincinnati, looking to stay unbeaten. It goes on the road. That's tomorrow night to take on St. Louis. They go by the name St. Louis City FC. Don't screw that up now. Can't be St. Louis FC. Can't be FC St. Louis. It's St. Louis City FC. They're having a good year. They're 5 wins, 2 losses, no draws. FC Cincinnati, 5 wins, no losses, 2 draws. And FC Cincinnati sits atop the MLS East standings. And then in heartbreaking news to our good friend Paul Fritchner, Daniel Snyder's reign as owner of the Washington Commanders is coming to a close. Josh Harris, who co-owns the Philadelphia 76ers of the NBA and the New Jersey Devils of the NHL, has agreed to terms to buy the Commanders for over $6 billion. The deal is expected to be approved by the league owners in late May. Daniel Snyder, you call him a lot of things, and he has earned the right to be called a lot of things. But when you buy a team for $800 million and you sell it for $6 billion, that's not bad.
No, but if he was
that ROI is pretty solid.
You're right, but if he was even halfway competent, maybe they would have been worth $10 billion.
Well, I tell you what, I would let people call me incompetent if my ROI, what's that percentage return?
It's like a little over 600%.
I'll take it. Wouldn't you?
Oh, well,
For
yeah.
every one of your wagers on Betfred Sports, would you like a 600% return on investment?
Sure.
All right. Fair enough.
Not if I have to deal with Dan Snyder, though.
Well, you got a point there. I told you about my rubbing elbows with Dan Snyder.
You
I've told that story on the program before. With him and Tom Cruise. Now, there's a big leaguer. As far as just treating people great, Tom Cruise is the ultimate big leaguer. I know they say he's a little bit of whack job and that what is it, Scientology and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's way out there. There's no doubt about it. But as far as just treating people the way you would want to be treated, in the very limited amount of time I saw him in a hotel and then the next day in an NFL game, Tom Cruise was a big leaguer.
Didn't Tom? You know what? Never mind.
Go ahead.
No.
What were you going to say, Paul? Didn't Tom what?
I mean, I love Tom Cruise, but wasn't
you
he?
Love him as an actor?
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
I just never got the impression that was the public impression of him.
Oh, I mean, I've never heard anything bad about him. In fact, when they were filming the most recent Mission Impossible, right? Or no, I'm sorry, the one the
Top Gun.
Top Gun, the second one, Maverick.
Yeah.
They taped a lot of that in Coronado, California. And I have a sister-in-law who lives in Coronado, California. We were out visiting her, and they were shooting a scene that day. And we had we had talked to a lot of the different restaurant owners, and I'm talking greasy spoon joints. I'm not talking about highfalutin restaurants. I'm just talking about some breakfast joints right there along the main drag, Orange Avenue through Coronado. And they said that every time Cruise came in, he was just off the charts great. So
that's good.
You only go by how you saw him. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But then you listen to the word of mouth from some others. And anyway, okay. We have lots of football on this Friday coming up on Off the Bench. At 10:30, we will talk with Jay Morrison, all that is Bengals. Jay from The Athletic does a great job covering the team. At 11, we shift gears to college football, and we will visit with Dave Biddle. He covers all that is Ohio State. The Mighty Buckeyes have their spring game tomorrow in Columbus, and recently we talked about yesterday, they have just been tearing it up on the recruiting trail. But a lot of big questions about Ohio State going into the season. Obviously, you got to replace C.J. Stroud at quarterback. It starts there. And you got bookend tackles, both of whom might be first-round picks. Certainly the kid Paris Johnson Jr. from Princeton High School will be a number-round pick. He'll be a top 15 pick. And then a lot of conversation about DeJuan Jones, the other tackle. Will he be a first-round pick? He'll certainly be in the top 2 rounds. So the Buckeyes have to replace both of those guys for this upcoming season. Then at 11:30, it's back to the NFL. Matt Lane will be here. He's been a friend of the program for a long time. And Casey's going to be talking about those Kansas City Chiefs. The reigning Super Bowl champions twice in the last 4 years. 3 trips to the Super Bowl in the last 5. The team the Bengals continue to chase. The Bengals want to be the Chiefs. Are you willing to admit that you would agree with that statement? Yay or nay?
I don't know if they want to be the Chiefs. I think they want to be the Bengals and beat the Chiefs. I think they want to do it their own way, but I'll give you that they're chasing them in a way. I know that our records might not show that in the regular season, but I mean, they got a ring before us, before we were good, so I don't know. But the one thing I actually wanted to talk about really quickly,
yes,
that is football related for FCC. It was pretty much determined that Brenner was going to be traded and transferred in July at some point. So FC is going to be losing one of its top goal scorers from last year. He's going to be moving on to I don't know how to even pronounce the other team or whatever league it's in, but he's moving on to
Serie A.
What is it?
The league. I don't know what team. I didn't see what team he's going to.
Yeah, but so he hasn't been doing great this season, anyways. But it's always a little bit of a worrisome when you lose one of your top goal scorers from last year. So
See, that's what I don't understand about the whole soccer world, and I need to get more educated about this thing. I just don't understand the whole thing. I really don't. I mean, I know there are leagues all over the world. Answer this for me if either one of you can. If you were a great soccer player and you could play in any league in the world as your primary job, okay?
Yep.
Right? So, like, if you asked a baseball player, where would you want to play? You wouldn't say the Japanese league. You wouldn't say the Mexican league, right? You would say Major League Baseball, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, for soccer, if someone from any league were to call, every league, were to call you up on the phone and said, I want you to come play for my team in this league, what league would it be?
Premier League in
Yeah.
England.
The English Premier League.
Okay. And they're playing the same time right now as the MLS is playing?
They play through they start in like August, September.
I was going to say they play in the winter months,
and they
right?
play through the winter months. Yep.
Yeah. And
But some guys play both?
No, nobody plays MLS and goes over there.
Okay. All right.
Now,
So you can't play both, even though the seasons may not overlap.
I mean the seasons don't completely overlap, but they overlap enough because
Okay.
the MLS starts in late February, early March, and the Premier League season doesn't end until like around May. I mean, it's different because you got to remember there's no playoffs in soccer. You just the team that wins is the best team at the end of the regular season. So because there's no championship series or playoff or postseason or whatever, the league still finishes out their season, but you might determine a champion a lot sooner one season than the other season, whatever it might be. So, I mean, I don't watch the Premier League only because it's too early on Saturday mornings for me to get up and watch. But sometimes when you get those random afternoon games or night games, because the time change is tough. But
Well, I was over there doing the NFL. A number of those games they play over in London. I went over there and broadcast for Fox. And it was unbelievable, the following. I mean, we'd get there 4 or 5 days early and, walk around the corner into a pub, right by the hotel. And, I mean, packed full of people in there watching. And that was during the fall, November, whatever it was. So before we have a couple other things to talk about before we get to Jay Morrison, if you're a player, a great soccer player, you can just get picked up right now if one of those teams, even though they're not playing their season yet, if somebody in the English Premier League loved a player on FC Cincinnati, they could call you in the middle of your season while you're under a contract with another team.
Yep.
They could call you immediately and say, hey, quit that team, come over right now and start the workouts for our season with our team.
it's not
No, it's not. It's not exactly like that.
It's not apples to apples, but a good way to think about it is like the minor leagues.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. They can just jerk you away right now if you want to leave.
Well,
Even though you have a contract with another team and another employer.
the team has to agree to a transfer, and that means that they have to, it's like a trade. So, like, they're not getting Brenner for free. Like, they're not just plucking him. They're having to fork over like $13 million, which is a lot for the MLS. Like,
And there are only certain times that you can do it too. They're like it's all there's
So there's windows of this.
yeah, there are intricacies to it. Yeah, that's actually that's a good I mean that literally is what it's called.
But
transfer windows.
the team can deny a transfer because he was supposed to be traded or transferred last year, but they denied him from going to the English Premier League because the teams weren't forking over enough money for their evaluation of the player. So, yes, it stinks. In my eyes, it stinks, but it could end up being that we get another really great player with $13 million.
So could they trade you a player?
No, not necessarily. You basically pay a transfer.
Kind of like you do with the Japanese league in Major League Baseball. You pay the team if you want Shohei to come over or Ichiro or whatever it is. The Major League team pays that Japanese league team $10 million, $15, whatever it is, right? And then he comes over.
You're trading for cash considerations is the easiest way to say it.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Someone in the chat said the Reds win last night and we're talking football. The Reds play every day. We're not going to break down every Reds game this season. That ain't happening. But last night, I mean, if you're a Reds fan, last night was just a rock-solid game to watch, right?
Yeah.
Rock-solid game. Your starter was good. He wasn't great, but he was good. And I talked about it before. That's a sign. Steve Stone, my old partner with the Cubs, who still broadcasts a White Sox game now, won a Cy Young Award as a pitcher with the Baltimore Orioles, won 25 games in a season, and then got hurt and was never the same again. But as sharp a baseball mind as I've ever met in my life. I learned more from Steve Stone about the game of baseball than anybody I've ever been around the 6 years I was doing the Cubs games. And he used to say to me all the time, roughly to the effect, as a starting pitcher, that if you get 32 starts over the course of a year, there are going to be 8 or 9 of them where you have your best stuff. Okay? So less than a third. There are going to be that many when you don't have much at all. And, and then you have the other third, a little more than a third, the majority, in fact, where it's okay. You might be, he used to say, you might be in the bullpen, and, man, you are locating that fastball, or your slider has just got incredible tilt to it and all these kinds of things. And then now you're walking to the mound from the bullpen, and you really feel good about your stuff. And then you get on the stadium mound, because they're all a little different. They say they're the same, but they're not if you talk to pitchers. They're all a little different. Even though there are rules and regulations, a little tinkering going on there. And then you'll get out there and, man, where was the location on that fastball that I had 30 minutes ago in the bullpen? Where was the break on that slider I had 30 minutes ago in the bullpen? And now you got to navigate your way through the game and try to just navigate. That's the best word. And that's what Lodolo did last night. If you watched his last start against Philadelphia, I mean, he bang on the outside corner, bang on the inside. He did pitch in a lot more last night than I remember him pitching in the past. But I don't watch the full game every game. I'm not sitting around watching a baseball game for 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours every night. But I did watch a lot last night, and he was pitching in quite a bit. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that he knew he didn't have his best stuff. Yet he found a way, high pitch count, worked around what could have been a disaster in the first inning. He ends up giving up 2 runs, throws nearly 100 pitches through 5, but he only allows 2. The difference between the good guys and the middle-of-the-road guys are the guys who walk out the door of 100 pitches in 5 innings, and instead of giving up 2 runs, they give up 4, or they give up 5, or they just, they can't get an out with the bases loaded, already down 2-0, and it's 5-0, and you're going, what the heck just happened here? That was Lodolo last night. He just continued to battle. Casale walked him through the game. Impressive. And then the bullpen. Look, nobody kills a bullpen more than me. But give credit where credit is due. All of this on the heels, by the way. I don't know if you saw this. But David Bell had a meeting, about a 10-minute meeting with his team before the game yesterday. Said he was very proud of the effort, the way they're playing, and that things were going to start turning in their direction, winning rather than losing. 1-0 since a meeting.
That's a big deal. I mean, whatever he said, I don't know if it'll eventually translate into the rest of the team playing well, but, I mean, it worked so far, right? So
I think this goes for a lot of Reds fans where I got a text. I was talking to somebody who watches pretty much every Reds game last night or the night before. We were just kind of going back and forth about it, and I said, man, it's nice seeing them. It was last night because they were winning. And he texted me back and he said, I'll tell you one thing. It is just so much more fun watching the Reds this year than it was last year.
Yes.
Yeah, and whether they are competitive at the end of the year or not, whether they're over 500, whether they are over their win total, at least for right now, what the Reds are doing is a whole lot more fun
Yes.
than just beating your head against a wall like what we saw for 162 games last year. There was a little bit in June and July last year
That's
where
right.
it kind of gave you hope. And after that, 3-22 start,
Yep.
you're thinking to yourself, oh, okay. Like,
Yeah, for a while, we kind of hung in there after that.
the May, June, July wasn't terrible.
It wasn't
and then
terrible.
And then they fell off a cliff at the end. But you're thinking to yourself, But now, at least what we're seeing is fun to watch.
Yes,
they
it
might
is.
not be winning it, but the games are close. They're exciting. They're fun to watch.
There's no doubt about it. I agree with you. Astute observation there, 1,000%. Some of our, before we get to Jay Morrison, some of our fans in the chat want to know, Casey, if you're bringing your glove to the game tonight. Do you have a glove?
I do not have a glove.
You don't?
No.
Okay. All right.
I don't need a glove.
Poofy-haired fancy boy, I do not hate baseball. That's just the ridiculous take. You're smarter than that. The one I like the best, though, I have to tell you, of all of these, based on what happened yesterday, where did this go? Someone in the chat made the comment that, here it is. Everett said, funny that Casey is wearing red after what happened yesterday. Communist dictator vibes in full swing. In bed with the Chinese Communist Party.
They better watch out if I get that ban hammer back.
All right. Well, we know a freedom-loving American from right up here in Hamilton, Ohio, who, of course, spent his most glorious years at The Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. He is none other than our good friend from The Athletic, Jay Moore. Jay, you're looking mighty sharp today. I mean, you got the button down going, the whole deal. You got somewhere to go today? What do you got going on?
Just here. I had to class it up for the show.
Oh, boy. Well, you'd be the first. I mean, look at these two guys I'm working with, for crying out loud. I mean, come on.
Well, what's the age? I heard you guys talking before I came on. What's the age cutoff where you're not allowed to take a glove to a ball game anymore? Is it 18?
I never have a problem with people bringing a glove to a ball game because you never know.
I don't know. Mine's like 16, 15.
16 was always mine, Jay. 16 was what I
Yeah.
said.
See, but you guys don't have kids.
Well, I was just
Okay,
gonna follow
I have
that up.
sat in
Yeah.
the stands in games that I wasn't broadcasting, and down the third base line a little bit. Jay, you've been down there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden those rockets come flying down, foul ball into the stands. If you've got little kids with you, man, you got to be on it. So if there's a dad who wants to bring a glove to a game, I say God bless him.
Ryan Braun nearly broke my arm in one of those seats. You were probably broadcasting the game. It was the first 12:35 game that ever appeared on Fox Sports Ohio because they didn't used to do those day games. And
Yeah.
I took my son. We were in the front row down the left field line. He turned on one. I stupidly stood in there and tried to catch it barehanded. And it hit my forearm, and I couldn't use my arm the rest of the day. I couldn't even take my wallet out of my pocket. It fell right at my feet, and I picked it up and handed it to my son, and he was thrilled. But I was really, really sore.
Yeah, those things, as my old broadcast partner Ron Santo used to say, Hall of Famer Ron Santo, those foul balls come to eat. There's no mercy there. All right, here we are. We are officially less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. At The Athletic, you've conducted, I don't know how many years you've done it now because The Athletic's not been around all that long. You asked fans to basically give a first through, seventh round of their picks, and then you listed the most, second most, so on and so forth. When you do that drill, based on how many you've done, first of all, how many have you done, and do they even come close to what actually happens?
Honestly, this is the second year we've done it. So I started in 18, but I started after the draft, and the reporters in Detroit were the first ones that we saw do it, and we liked the idea, and of course we stole it. And I don't feel bad about stealing an idea from a teammate, from a colleague. And I do think the readers like it. I honestly can't remember last year's how accurate people were. That's the thing about mock drafts. Like, everybody does them. You do all these different iterations, and then once the draft happens, they just go out the window. Like, nobody goes back and grades them to see how accurate or inaccurate or it's just all it's just fodder leading up to the draft. And it is fun, but I think a lot of people realize what the exercise is and don't take it too seriously. But that's what I tried to have fun with this piece. I invited people to send me their mocks and got close to 90. It made for a long week I put everybody's picks in an Excel spreadsheet and sorted it all out and came up with the composite picks. And it's fun. It's a fun way to engage with readers and subscribers. And I hope the fans are wrong, that the fans' pick in the first round was Kalijah Cansey, the defensive tackle from Pittsburgh, and not opposed to going defensive line in the first round. But I just think the comparisons there with him and Aaron Donald are number one, are not fair. And number two might be a stretch anyhow, because you just look at what the Bengals typically prefer out of those defensive linemen, and it's taller, longer arms. And Cansey's a terrific player, but he's got shorter arms than their template. He's shorter. I think he's going to have his work cut out for him to live up to that first-round billing.
All right, based on what we know, because we've not had you, Jay, on the program since the Bengals signed Scott, since they signed Irv Smith Jr., they addressed clearly the safety position after Von Bell and Jesse Bates leave. We know that Dax Hill will be the other starting safety. Based on where the team is now, what they've done so far in free agency, how would you rank 1, 2, 3? What position they're most likely to draft in the first round? Now, I know it's dependent upon the 27 teams that pick in front of them, but in a perfect world, it would be 1, 2, 3. What?
I don't know about the order, but I think by the time Friday night ends, they should have an offensive lineman, preferably a tackle, a cornerback, and a tight end. And even the Irv Smith signing, that's still a position in need. He's had injury history throughout his career, his young career. So he's on a very cheap prove-it deal. That was not a fix. That was, I don't want to say a prayer. It's a solid investment, and there is a very high ceiling there. But you can't be lulled into this sense of security where, okay, tight end is no longer an issue. It's still a huge issue. I don't see them reaching for a tight end in the first round. Had they not signed Smith, maybe tight end would be the odds-on favorite to be a first-round pick. But I think that at least opens up the options where they can go any way. The way the top 27 goes is really going to dictate that, because I think if Darnell Wright specifically is there, then he would be the pick, the right tackle from Tennessee. If he's not there, I think you're going to see them lean back on their tried and true plan of stocking that secondary, and they don't need a cornerback right away. And they signed Sidney Jones. They signed a number 4 cornerback, but Cheeto coming off of the ACL, Cam Taylor-Britt still being young, it just where those contracts are going to eventually come due, and you need a lot of good corners. You can never have enough corners, and this is this draft hits them well. I think they're going to have their pick of 2 or 3 corners that could really help them in that 28 spot. So those are the 3 positions. I know a lot of people are big on running back, but I still think you can wait till the 4th round to attack that, and then maybe again in the 7th, and then definitely with undrafted free agency. And I do want to say, you rattled off the free agents. Thank you for not bringing up Orlando Brown Jr., because I don't know if it was the last time I was on the show, but one of the times I was on the show, you asked me if he was a possibility. I said, no way.
Well, I don't think anybody saw that coming, Jay.
Right, yeah. The Bengals didn't even think that was going to happen, but I'm willing to admit when I was wrong.
Well, you weren't wrong. I think that everybody just looked at it and thought that that they're not going to do it. They've never shown a track record of necessarily going out and getting the biggest guy at any position. I mean, they've gotten some good guys through the years, and they found some really nice bargains through the years, just in recent years, especially on the defensive side. But not the biggest guy fish in the ocean, so to speak, and that's what they got with Brown Jr. But just to clarify, to make sure I understood this, because we were debating this the other day. Jones is here to replace Eli Apple, right? No chance Apple comes back?
I wouldn't say no chance, but it feels like they've tired of his antics, and he's still available.
Yeah.
So if there was interest there, you think it would have happened by now. So yeah, he is signed to be the number 4 corner, and the first one in case there is an injury that could fill in at one of those outside spots.
Okay, the Mixon thing. All right, we had a lengthy conversation about this, and perhaps you have some knowledge of this situation. If I ran the Bengals, and clearly I don't, and I never will, but there are so many different sort of layers to this thing and different compartments to this thing. Clearly, number one being the legal part of it. I mean, what ultimately is going to happen here with Mixon and so forth, charges, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So if you separate that now into the player Mixon, and we've talked a lot about him when you've been on the show, about what he's done, what he's not done, whatever the case may be. It seems to me, though, that if the Bengals are getting at least some kind of information from wherever or whoever, that this is not going to lead to serious legal trouble for Mixon. It seems to me that I would be having the conversation with Mixon and his people about the possibility of redoing his contract to see if he would go along with it before we get to the draft, long before we get to June 1st when they can cut him loose and save a lot of money on the salary cap. Do you think that would be a wise decision? Do you think it's going on?
Yes, I do. I think it would be. I think it's a mandatory decision, and I do think that if it hasn't happened yet, it will happen before the draft. They need to know where they stand, whether he's at least willing to consider taking a pay cut. You can't pay a running back $12.8 million this year when you're talking about extending Joe Burrow, possibly extending T. Higgins. Just what running back in what it has become in the league anyhow, and then you're starting to see that fall off from Joe Mixon, and the Bengals structured this contract, this 4-year, $48 million deal that they did a few years back. They structured that with this in mind, where it's very easy to get out of if he does fall off the cliff. And they don't do that. They like to honor contracts, and that's one of the selling points when they negotiate is, hey, you're going to get every dollar of this deal, because there are very few guaranteed contracts in the league, but it has to happen. And I don't know that you're not going to see the team cut Joe based on what these charges are. His court hearing, I believe, is Wednesday, coming up this coming Wednesday. So in 5 days, maybe it's continued. I don't know, but the decision about Joe Mixon's future with the team is going to come down to money. If they haven't cut him yet over these charges, and you can always hide behind, hey, he hasn't been proven guilty, but it's a bad look. It's just, I don't think you're going to see anything happen because of the court case. It's going to be his refusal, if he does refuse, to take a pay cut, because they are going to ask him if they haven't already, and it's probably going to be a significant one. You're probably going to be talking about going from 12.8 into the 5 million range.
You know Mixon a little bit. You think he's on board with that kind of thing? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball, and I know you're not his agent, but what do you think?
Well, I think that's where the court case comes into play, because I think the Bengals are going to value him more than other teams would. And maybe at first he says no and tries to see what's out there or what other teams, maybe his agent, Peter Schaefer, is already doing that and kind of seeing what his value would be if he was let go. But that hurts him. You've already got the pre-draft issue where he hit the woman on the day he turned 18, and everybody knows that story. So he came into the league with baggage, and he had, for the most part, had kept his nose clean until these recent incidents. And even the one that happened at his house, it was his house, but he wasn't charged with anything. But it's perception. It's a bad look, and that's going to affect your value. And I do, like I said, I think the Bengals are going to value him more than other teams will, and he's not going to be happy about taking a pay cut. But if that's your best offer, then it would make sense for him to stick around here, where he's comfortable with the offense, he's comfortable with the coaching staff. Everybody wants to play with Joe Burrow. He's been in a Super Bowl the last 2 years ago, AFC Championship game last year. We know what the shelf life of running backs is, and his time is running out. If he wants to win a ring, I think his best shot is to stay here in Cincinnati.
If he doesn't come back or agree to a pay cut, I believe they would have, Evans and Williams officially in the running backs room that's left. Would that put the Bengals in scramble mode at that point?
I don't think so, because you've seen it all across the league where these running backs. Look at the Chiefs last year. They won the Super Bowl with their primary running back being 7th-round pick. Now you can't predict that, but it's out there. It can happen. You see it all the time. Guys drafted in the 4th round, the 5th round, undrafted free agents. These running backs come from everywhere, and this is not a run first offense. The main thing they need to do is get somebody in here that they really trust as a pass blocker. Yeah, it's great if he gives you juice in the run game, and you do need to have a solid run game. But they don't. I'd be stunned even if Bijan Robinson, who is the consensus #1 overall running back available in the draft, even if he somehow falls to 28, I don't see them pulling that trigger. I don't see them taking a running back, before Saturday. I mean, maybe they take one in the 2nd or 3rd round, but they're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna know what they have with or don't have with Mixon by the draft. That the offer may be out there. They're the pay cut ultimatum, I guess you would say, might be out there, but you're not going to know for sure where that stands. So I don't think it would put them in scramble mode. The only thing it would do is maybe you see them really, really attack undrafted free agency and say, look, go get all the best running backs left and call them on the phone as soon as the draft ends and say, hey, we've got Joe Burrow, we've got a great offense, and we've got openings at running back. This is the best place for you to come and see how many of those guys they can sign.
One of your colleagues yesterday, and I'm drawing a blank on the name at The Athletic, wrote that article. I'm sure you're familiar with the one that I'm talking about, where the question was asked about the Bengals signing Higgins, signing Chase, signing Burrow, right? You know the article I'm talking about.
Yeah, Jeff Howe wrote that.
Okay. For those who didn't see it, I talked about it yesterday, and it got into the financial structure and challenges the Bengals would face if they're paying Burrow whatever it is they're paying him, paying Higgins $20+ million, paying Chase $25 to $30+ million, and locking up all those guys long term, and some of the ramifications. And I thought most interestingly was the teams around the league that have a running backs room where they're spending over $20 or $30 million, in the wide receivers room, and how only 2 of them were spending more than, I think it was $10 million or $20 million, that even won a playoff game. What were your impressions of that article?
I get it because I've talked about this in the past, not just paying 2 wide receivers that much money, but to have a wide receiver and a running or a quarterback that are among the top paid in the league, it's just hard to do. And we saw it. Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers couldn't stay together in Green Bay, and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes couldn't stay together in Kansas City. It's really hard to have those two, the 2 most premium positions, to have top 5 guys at both of those. And now you're talking about T. Higgins, which he wouldn't be at 20 million, which is probably where he would come in. He wouldn't be a top 5, but man, if you're going to load up on those 3 spots, that's going to make things really difficult. And the good thing is they've done a good job of drafting, and that's how you can make that work, is if you can just keep hitting in the draft and restocking that talent and relying on a lot of quality players that are on rookie deals. I asked out at the owners meeting in Phoenix a couple weeks ago, I asked Katie Blackburn that point blank, where yes, it's financially possible to sign all 3 of those guys, but is it responsible? Is it realistic? And
right.
Her response was, we'll see, which I took that to mean they're going to try. They would like to keep T. Higgins around. It would make sense on both sides to try to get that done before the draft. From T's standpoint, if the Bengals go out and draft a T. Higgins-like wide receiver in the 2nd round, he loses all his leverage, not all of his leverage, but a lot of his leverage. And then the Bengals would like to get it done because that kind of helps them direct their draft. And do they need to take a wide receiver earlier rather than later? I don't know that you'll see anything get done, even if it gets done at all, if it'll get done before the draft. But the article itself, your original question about my impressions of it, it's always these what Jeff did, for people that aren't familiar with it, he talked to NFL executives across the league about what the Bengals should do, and most of them were of the opinion they should not pay T. Higgins. Now, is that self-serving? Are they saying don't pay T. Higgins because we want him, we want to sign him? You always have to wonder about what the motivation is in those comments. But there is some truth there too, where yes, you're making life very, very hard if you have that much money wrapped up in 3 players. And I do think that there was some honesty in there, as well as maybe some self-serving aspects to it that might not be the best way to go, but this is such a dynamic offense, and those 3 are such a key part of it. I can see the Bengals wanting to figure out a way to make it work.
All right. Well, Jay, we appreciate your time very, very much. I know you're around the clock, nonstop, leading up to the draft, and shortly thereafter, schedule comes out shortly thereafter that. So we appreciate your time today. Thanks so much for joining us, Jay.
All right. Thanks for having me, Tom. All
right. Jay Morrison from The Athletic. Check that out, by the way, the mock draft thing. It was really interesting. A lot of fans that he said, I mean, he's uploading in Excel, 90 he said. And it's really interesting. For those that aren't following players from Old Dominion, the tight end, or following this guy from Arkansas or whatever it might be, which, by the way, Jeremiah Davenport is going to Arkansas. I forgot to mention that in the open today.
Yeah.
Well, there's reaching out of left field. But you know what I'm saying here. It was very interesting. So, look, we got Dave Biddle coming up here in a minute. Ham and Eggers, take it away. Continue the conversation. We got lots of football talk here today. Ham and Eggers, Mr. President, we salute.
It's that time of the show, the Ham and Eggers. These guys are great. Trust me, I would know. I introduce all the best segments.
Talking a lot of football, the Bengals Report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data center world with a suite of services from mobile computing to desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing models to improve efficiency and
productivity.
Visit Encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. Also, there is a new premium alkaline water out. It's right in front of us. Casey's drinking it right now. It's Pawnee. Tastes great, as Casey says. Made in Hamilton, Ohio, Pawnee uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that many other brands use. The result is a healthy alkaline water that is also the best-tasting water in the world. Visit their website at pawneewater.com. That's P-A-H-H-N-I water.com. P-A-H-H-N-I water.com to see where you can buy this great-tasting water. Drink Pawnee Water, get your coffee from UDF, bet with Betfred, and get your technology solutions from Encore.tech. That is everything that we have for you on the advertisement side for this segment of the Ham and Eggers. Is there anything that's on your mind, Casey? You're going to the Reds game tonight. You're going with Sir Boy Wonder. The rain should hold off. I was looking at it. Xavier, we have a Xavier game this afternoon at 3. As soon as I saw that, thinking to myself, we're going to be fighting the weather outside. No, we're all good. We're all good the rest of the night. There's a chance for a sprinkle, but
so
it's all right.
Fireworks night, does that happen even after a loss?
It does. Got to cheer the fans up somehow. Fireworks Friday does not take a night off. Why? You don't. Are you about to say they shouldn't do it after a loss?
No. Who cares? You lost. Why? Why would you celebrate a loss? That makes no sense.
Casey, you got to get the fans in the door somehow.
You put a winning product on the field. That's how you do it.
Oh, God. Oh,
it's
no,
a cherry
Casey.
on top for fireworks celebration,
Oh, no.
which it doesn't matter because they're going to win tonight anyways.
That's right.
We're going to win tonight anyways.
Oh, man. I'll be honest. I did not think that was the take I was getting when you started that sentence. I don't know where you were going, but I did not think that we were going to get that take.
That they shouldn't do
wild.
Fireworks if they lose.
That's wild.
I don't see why.
Casey just said that. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't agree with you, but I see where you're coming from.
What do you think,
Casey
Tom?
just said that they should. He's going to the game tonight.
Yeah.
And he asked me because it's Fireworks Friday, if they still do the fireworks after a loss.
Yeah.
And he said they shouldn't do the fireworks after a loss.
That's a loss. Why are you
Casey,
celebrating
come
a loss?
on.
It's a fan
It's like a
engagement thing.
separate show.
Yeah.
Separate show.
You're basically getting two. Yes, you're getting. I think Rossi still does the fireworks down there, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the best in
Best
the
in the
country,
business.
Right?
Best in the
I mean,
business.
you know, they do great work. Have for a long time. I think they're right up there in Loveland, Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. Loveland, I know. Loveland, if you've lived here long enough.
It's like a 20-minute show, Casey. It's like
it is.
a
You're
20-minute
like
show.
getting. It's the same thing when you're. It's no different than when you're buying a ticket to the game and they have one of the concerts after the game. You're getting two separate shows.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that. I thought it was just like they do like a 5-minute thing to celebrate the game or whatever.
Dude, if they did fireworks after only wins, Rossi would go out of business.
Well, I mean, yes, I understand that they would probably go out of business if they didn't do it every Friday or whatever. But
No, I'm saying if they only did it after they won. You get the connection here, fellas? If
They
they
would
only
not
did
have to very
fireworks
much.
after wins, they
Yeah.
wouldn't have any fireworks.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, all right.
I mean, I don't know. I just don't understand it. But
We'll get you. It's a
I
it's a
will find
baseball
out tonight.
tradition.
I'll find out tonight. and then
Have you
I'll
seen
come
the
back.
Sandlot? Have you seen the Sandlot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's fireworks. It's a baseball tradition.
Okay. Well, I will finally understand it when I go there.
You know,
Well, AJ, I mean, we might have to ban him, period.
look,
What?
I'm going to say this.
AJ, come on. It doesn't matter whether you're rich, poor, black, white, green, makes no difference. Some people love fireworks and they can't stand fireworks.
I'm a sucker for a good fireworks
I love
show.
them. I love them.
I mean, when you work in baseball for long enough and you're in the minors, you're bouncing around. Like fireworks are the go-to. It's Friday night. You're doing a fireworks show, and you hear fireworks every single Friday for 6 months. But it's just something about like something a little different than the monotony of the game's over.
That's right.
You're writing the post-game story. You're going home. Like there's a little music. There's a little vibe in the crowd. It's just something a little different.
The only thing that stinks is when you're doing the game on radio and you got to do the post-game show. And you're sitting there trying to talk over it, and it's so loud and, you know, the whole 9 yards. It's not like you can just close the windows up and all of a sudden blot that out. But they don't do it that way anymore. Tommy doesn't do the post-game show, him and Cowboy. They make a little, 3-4 minute dialogue about the game, and then they're out. And Dave Yiddy Armbruster, although I think he's doing it from the I know he is. He's doing it from the booth. So maybe it still has an effect on him too.
And I love 4th of July. I love fireworks. It seems so. I don't understand what I'm about to go witness. By the way, like you guys said, it's a 20-minute show. I had no idea. I thought it was just like
They're not just
a
shooting
celebration.
Yeah, they're not just shooting it. Like it's off the barge, off the back of the stadium. Like they're not just shooting a few fireworks out of the smokestacks.
Okay.
It's big league show.
Yeah,
It really is. They do a great job.
Yeah.
You're going to enjoy it. Stick around for a little while.
All right.
Before we get to Dave Biddle in Ohio State, Casey, any reaction to what you heard from Jay Morrison?
I mean, I thought the Bengals were gonna try to keep the three of those guys. That's their goal. That's their plan. And it makes sense, like he said, to do it before the draft because you don't want to draft T's replacement. I mean, it all makes sense, right? I just have a hard time seeing them being able to get it done without them all taking team-friendly deals. We'll know how it's going with all their negotiations when we see the T. Higgins deal, which I'm going to say it's 75% done. I don't know that there's 25% where I'm like, maybe they don't go through with it, but I think they actually have a deal in place. And I think T. Higgins has agreed to a deal.
Okay.
But when we see it, I'll give you a better answer in how I feel about the three of them sticking together long term. But if it's over $25 million, man, I'm nervous. I'm really nervous because that means someone's going to have to really sacrifice to keep them.
Okay, well, look, I am on the record as saying I love T. Higgins. I love the kind of kid he seems to be. I think his mom seems like she's freaking awesome. She seems very cool. I just like her and some of the stuff she does and social media. I think she's fantastic. But I am on the record as saying Higgins is a great player, but this Bengals franchise will be in big trouble if they sign all three guys to long-term deals. Name me one team, and you just heard Jay Morrison give a couple of examples. Name me one team that in the modern free agency era has gone out and spent on one quarterback and two wide receivers and ever done anything in the postseason when you're locking up that much money in three guys. I'm going to keep Higgins around this year. I'm going to tag him next year, and I'm going to make my run for the next 2 years and see what happens. And after that, it's time to trade. And who knows what happens in the next 2 years?
Right.
I mean, you never know. He might turn out to be better than Chase. Do I think that's probable? No. But Higgins is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
He's really good. I think he's one of the top 10 guys in the league. Right now, Chase would be ranked ahead of him by most, analysts and people who watch this stuff. But who knows what will happen the next 2 years? You just never know.
Yeah.
He might end up being your main guy. Where in a year from now, we're sitting here and Chase for something, I don't mean injury-wise, but who knows? I mean, you just never know what could happen. And all of a sudden, you can then make a decision to give Higgins a long-term deal, and maybe you decide you don't want to give Chase a long-term deal. I don't know. I'm just throwing out scenarios. But it doesn't make any sense to me to lock up all three of these guys right now and the effect it would have on the rest of your team to do business moving forward. The Chiefs last year did not have a wide receiver you even knew his name. They have a tight end you knew his name. Anyway. All right, we said we were going to shift gears to is Dave ready to go?
He is ready.
We're going to shift gears to college football. And look, this is a weird town. Dave Biddle knows this. Dave, kind enough to join us from up in Columbus, where he is everything that is Ohio State University, editor of Bucknuts on 24/7 Sports, host of On the Money 97.1, The Fan in Columbus, Ohio. David, good morning, young man. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Tom. Thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, man, really thrilled to have you on. Look, I'm the big Ohio State fan on this show. My brethren here, Casey and Paul, not so much. I'm a huge Ohio State fan. I love coming up to games when I can come up there. I wish I could come up. My son has a high school lacrosse game tomorrow in Indianapolis, so I can't come up tomorrow. Big day tomorrow in the spring game, if people could say there is such a thing as a big day in a spring game. But there's a lot going on and a lot still to be determined at Ohio State. Let's start with quarterback, okay? Because this time 2 years ago, you've forgotten more about it than I know. I never heard of C.J. Stroud. Never heard of the guy, right? And then all of a sudden, he ends up getting the starting job the next year and has the best 2-year career of any quarterback in the history of Ohio State University. Now, Devin Brown is competing with that job with Kyle McCord. Brown is hurt, will not play tomorrow. How do you look at this competition so far?
Yeah, Tom, I'll be very surprised if Kyle McCord doesn't try out there as a starter for the Buckeyes in the season opener against Indiana. I don't think there's a huge gap between McCord and Brown, but I think there is a gap. McCord's a year older, has a start under his belt as a true freshman. It was against Akron, but it was a game where C.J. Stroud was hurt. And you're right, C.J. Stroud did kind of come out of nowhere. If you remember, the Buckeyes had a quarterback commit early in that class, Jack Miller, who at the time was a 5-star, and then his stock started to drop. He stayed in the class. He stayed with the Buckeyes, but Ryan Day went out and got C.J. Stroud, who was a 3-star at the time, and he kept moving up. So Jack Miller's now transferred. He's at Florida. C.J. Stroud, obviously, we'll see how high he goes in the draft. But to answer your question, I think Kyle McCord has better control of the offense. Now, there's going to be a drop-off from C.J. Stroud to Kyle McCord, no doubt about it. But I do think by the end of the season or at some point, he'll be at the level where Ryan Day wants him. Is he going to be C.J. Stroud? No, he won't be. He can make all the throws. He doesn't have an absolute cannon, but he's got a strong arm. Right? It reminds me a little bit of Bobby Hoying going way back in the day to an Ohio State quarterback, kind of like that, where he's got a strong arm, can make all the throws, but you wouldn't consider it like an absolute cannon. Real heady kid. maybe more mobile than he gets credit for. Kyle McCord. He's not going to beat you with his legs, but he's not afraid to take off with the ball. A little bit Joe Burrow-ish. I'm not saying he's as good as Joe Burrow, but mobility-wise reminds me of that a little bit. So we'll see. It's too bad Devin Brown has the injured finger and won't be able to play tomorrow. But hopefully, for Buckeye fans' sake, Kyle McCord's able to put on a show tomorrow.
Now, Ryan Day, you tell me if I'm right in this observation. He doesn't strike me as the kind of guy. Urban flirted a little bit around with this 2-quarterback thing. The year he had, I think it was still J.T. Barrett and Cardale Jones that led him to the national championship. Barrett came back from breaking his ankle. I get the feeling that the Day's not a big fan of a 2-quarterback thing. Would that make any sense at all to do that or no?
No, I think you nailed it. I think he subscribes to the theory that if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. In that 2015 season that you referenced, it didn't go well. They're coming off a national championship. They had pretty much everybody back, and they were playing musical chairs all season at quarterback with Cardale and JT till the very end where JT Barrett got the job back. So, no, I think he's going to roll with one, and that'll be Kyle McCord. Again, I'll be shocked if it's not Kyle McCord. I do think he's going to find a way to get Devin Brown in the game a little bit more than Kyle McCord did last year. I felt last year, Tom, at times that Ryan Day was kind of going out of his way to try and get C.J. Stroud the Heisman. He'd be in there in the fourth quarter of blowouts at times. Not like deep in the fourth quarter, but like they'd be way up. I think this year, if they're way up in going to the fourth quarter, he's going to let Devin Brown play the entire fourth quarter. But yeah, I think Ryan Day is going to roll with one starting quarterback and just go with him, and I think it's going to be McCord.
Okay, I mentioned earlier in the show today when we were previewing you coming on, and thanks so much for being with us. Look, they're losing 2 guys. The left tackle, kid from right here in Cincinnati, Paris Johnson Jr., he's going to be a top 15 pick, maybe top 10 pick in the NFL draft. DeJuan Jones, starting right tackle last year, he's going to be maybe a first-rounder, certainly a second-rounder, if not first. Where are they replacing those guys?
Yeah, it's the biggest story of spring, in my opinion, is the offensive line because you're losing both of those bookend tackles, as you mentioned. Paris Johnson Jr. could be the first offensive lineman off the board. I think he might be a perfect fit in Chicago. I know that Skronsky, a lot of people have Peter Skronsky maybe going to the Bears at 9, the kid from Northwestern. He's about 6'4" with short arms, though. That's not an NFL left tackle to me. So I could see Paris Johnson Jr. going 9th. DeJuan Jones probably going the second round. There's been some late first-round buzz with him. I think probably second round. And then Luke Whippler, a lot of mock drafts have Luke Whippler, the center, going in the second round. That was one that kind of surprised me, Tom. I didn't really have that one on my radar. I think he played so well against Georgia. He's like, well, this is the best defensive line in the country, and I just had a great game, so I'm going to go pro as a third-year sophomore. I didn't see that coming from Luke Whippler, but he put on a show at the Combine. So to answer your question, at left tackle, replacing Paris Johnson Jr. will be Josh Fryer. He was the 6th man on the offensive line last year when they went to those jumbo sets, and they put that 6th offensive lineman in there kind of like as a jumbo tight end. That was Josh Fryer going in there. He actually started a game against Indiana. He's a kid from Indiana, so that was pretty cool for him to get a start against Indiana last year. So he's going to slot in there at left tackle. They like him. Obviously, he's not going to be Paris Johnson Jr., but they like Josh Fryer. He's got a couple years of eligibility left. I think he'll be at least solid at left tackle. Right tackle, we'll see. We'll see, Tom, because I'll get to center in a second. Right tackle is interesting. Right now, they got a young man from the Cincinnati area, Tegra Shabola, who's going to be a redshirt freshman. Looks like he's straight out of central casting for a right tackle. 6'6", 320, 330, moves really well, very strong. I mean, he just looks like he could be like an NFL player right now. But he's still kind of raw, though. He's only a redshirt freshman, didn't enroll till June last year. So Tegra Shabola right now is getting a lot of first-team reps at right tackle. So is third-year sophomore Zen Mihalski. So those two guys are battling for the right tackle job. It's kind of too close to call. And, Tom, I have it on good authority. The portal opens tomorrow. The next window for the transfer portal opens tomorrow. And I have it on good authority. Ohio State is going to go hard after offensive tackles. They want to land at least one offensive tackle in the transfer portal. So that could end up being the starting right tackle is who they get in the portal. And then at center, taking over for Luke Whippler will very likely be redshirt freshman Carson Hinsman. He was a high 4-star recruit out of Wisconsin. Came down to Ohio State and Wisconsin, and the Buckeyes beat out the Badgers for a kid in their own state. That's pretty rare to do for an offensive lineman. So Carson Hinsman's been looking good this spring. But again, Tom, as a redshirt freshman, he's going to have his ups and downs, the quarterback of the offensive line. So you're not only losing 3 starters, you're losing 3 guys that are going to be, as I said, first-round pick and probably 2 second-round picks. Yeah. I don't remember an Ohio State offensive line that's lost that much talent to the NFL draft in 1 year.
The skill positions are just aside from the quarterback, where there's certainly the debate we just talked about a little while ago and who's going to win it. But man, oh man, But as we know, skill position players are only as good as the guys that are up front that we've just been talking about here. I mean, the wide receiving core is insane. Again, it's become wide receiver U up there. I don't know if you'd agree with this. And there have been some great ones that have come through, man. But I think Harrison Jr. is the best Ohio State wide receiver that I have seen since Chris Carter. And there have been incredible wide receivers there. But when you talk to people around the league, all the years I was doing in the NFL, and Brian Billick, who coached Carter in Minnesota, he said, man, you can talk about some of the great receivers of all time. Chris Carter's name may not come up, but he belongs right there with any of them. And I think Harrison is right in this mold, if not much more athletic than Carter was.
I agree with you 100%, Tom, and it's a bold statement, but you're absolutely right. There's been so many great receivers that come through here, even since Chris Carter. And so it's a very bold statement, including the last few years, with Olave and Garrett Wilson and all these guys. It's crazy. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's just special. I mean, he's got like the traits that his father has, but he's 6'4". I mean, it's just crazy. It's like you see him standing next to his dad, the Hall of Famer, and it's like, wow, like he towers over his own father. I mean, Marvin Harrison Sr. is what, 6 foot maybe?
Right.
But Marvin Harrison Jr., as you know, Tom, I mean, he catches everything. He runs great routes. He's such a matchup problem. Yeah, you have people in the NFL saying, like, they think he's going to be the best wide receiver in the NFL in, like, 5 years. Like, better than guys like Jamar Chase. It's like, wait, Justin Jefferson and those guys. It's like, okay, not to put too much on the young man, but he expects that. You talk to the coaches, and they're like, he's not satisfied. Like, his goal is not to get to the NFL. His goal is to be in Canton next to his father. He wants to be a Hall of Famer. That's where he wants to be. So he's driven. And one other thing I find interesting about him, you would think a kid like Marvin Harrison Jr. would have every reason to be cocky as heck, right? Dad's a Hall of Famer. He's a big-time kid. And then he had a huge year last year. He hasn't changed at all, Tom, and it's real. It's like he's an excellent young man. He's a hard worker. And so if he can stay healthy, I mean, he's going to have a huge year this year, no doubt about it. I mean, he had a huge year last year. He's going to have another huge year this year.
Ohio State was devastated with injuries in the running backs room last year. TreVeyon Henderson had the phenomenal freshman year. He was the best freshman running back in the country. He was one of the top 5 running backs in the country his first year. Mayan Williams comes on strong last year. Both of them are back this year. Does it look like both of them are both of them playing tomorrow? And if not, are both expected to be ready to go in the fall?
Mayan might play tomorrow. He'll be limited, though. He's been healthy this spring, but they've been limiting him since he's entering his 4th year. He's got a lot of wear and tear on the tires. So Mayan will probably play a little bit tomorrow. TreVeyon Henderson will not. He told me he could play in a game right now if they had one, but why risk it? He's coming off that broken bone in his foot that he dealt with all year. His fans were calling him soft because Ohio State's not going to tell the opponent what the injury is. So fans all year are like, what's going on with TreVeyon? Well, it turns out he was trying to play running back with a broken foot. Not easy, right? I mean, I played recreational tennis. I couldn't play with a broken foot, let alone play running back for Ohio State. So I think TreVeyon, he'll be fine for the start of the season. Like I said, he said he could play right now, but he won't play tomorrow. So we'll have Mayan. They'll have TreVeyon Henderson back. Dallin Hayden, I thought, was good as a true freshman last year. 195, and now he's bulked up. He looks good, Tom. He's about 205. I mean, it's easy to assume that he's going to be better as a sophomore than he was a true freshman with all that experience and now added weight. And he says he's just as fast or faster. They've got Chip Trayanum, who's now a full-time running back. He looks good this spring. So, they've got Evan Pryor, who had the torn patellar tendon in camp last year. Doctors say that's anywhere from a 6 to 12-month recovery, but either way, he should be good to go for the start of the season. You're right. I've never seen an Ohio State running back room that decimated with injuries. I mean, they're in the playoff, they're using like Xavier Johnson, a former walk-on wide receiver at running back, and Mitch Rossi, a backup tight end playing running back. They were so decimated. So, if they can stay reasonably healthy at running back, they feel good about what they've got.
All right, last couple things I want to ask you about. The defense last year, look, the couple of years prior, they just couldn't get it done. Last year, they bring in Jim Knowles as defensive coordinator. They looked good for most of the year, but then when it came to money time, especially that Michigan game, I was up there, and I don't know what the hell was going on, but it was just unfathomable, some of the things that were happening. Defensively, is this going to be a better team this coming year?
Yeah, they'll be better, and there's a huge emphasis on limiting those big plays, but they're going to give up some. They just can't give up as many as they did last year. I mean, part of the Jim Knowles defense is they're going to be aggressive, and they know that's going to entail they're going to give up some chunk plays, but they can't do what they did last year. You can't, especially against Georgia. I mean, you're up by 14 points. Like, what are you doing running zero coverage in the fourth quarter at 14 points? So you don't always have to be balls to the wall. You can sometimes like pull off the throttle a little bit, Jim. So I think he's going to do that. And Tom, I like the talent this year. I mean, guys like JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer are not entering their junior year. We see it all the time where guys are good as a freshman, sophomore, and then something really clicks as a junior, that third year. Same thing with the DBs. I mean, Denzel Burke had a sophomore slump last year. He looks great at corner this spring. They got a couple other corners that look good. Jordan Hancock was hurt last year for most of the season. He's a junior. He's looking good. And they brought in a really good transfer named Davison Igbinosun from Ole Miss. Tall corner, 6'2", 190. Freshman All-American last year at Ole Miss, and he's coming in here. So they've got three really good corners. I like the safeties as well. Guy to watch is sophomore Sonny Styles. Played a lot against Georgia as a true freshman. He enrolled – I mean, he was supposed to be a high school senior last year. He didn't enroll early. He reclassified and enrolled. He should have been a high school senior last year, and he's playing against Georgia and playing well in the semifinals. So I like what they got going on at safety. And then at linebacker, it's usually they got Tommy Eichenberg coming back. I didn't see that coming last year at all, Tom, with Tommy Eichenberg turning into – he was a second-team All-American, was one of the candidates to win the Butkus. That's the best middle linebacker play we've seen at Ohio State since at least Raekwon McMillan. So they got Tommy Eichenberg back. They've got Steel Chambers back. I also like I'm kind of going all over here. I also like their D tackles. I like Tyleek Williams, and I like Mike Hall and some of the other guys that got in there. And I like their backup defensive ends. I told you about Tuimoloau and Sawyer. Everybody knows about them. They got a couple of backup defensive ends that are really good. That were high recruits, Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry. So watch out for those guys too. So yeah, Tom, I do think the defense will be better, but we'll find out. The proof's going to be in the pudding. They have to limit those big plays, especially in those big games.
All right, last two things I have for you. I hear stories or read about them or whatever it may be that Ohio State has not firmly grasped, and they're not alone, this whole NIL thing. Is that accurate?
If you would have asked me 2 months ago, I would say absolutely. Things have changed rapidly. They feel good about it. I mean, I'll give you an example. When we had early signing day in December, and we asked Ryan Day about the class, I mean, I even asked him the question because I heard from, excellent sources. There were 3 or 4 kids that gave them, verbal commitments and then backed out because of NIL, because Ohio State could not provide upfront money. They still cannot provide upfront money. Ohio State's not doing that. But what they have done is as soon as these kids enroll, they're getting NIL deals. So you got these kids that enrolled early, like Carnell Tate, Jelani Thurman, all of them they're doing well this spring. Noah Rogers, all those guys. Jermaine Matthews from Winton Woods in Cincinnati. Those guys got deals right away as soon as they enrolled. So obviously they're telling the recruits that. So things have changed rapidly. Ryan Day, we talked to him the other day on Wednesday. He feels good about it. He's like, we're going to have a big class. We feel good about where we're at. And Tom, that's like a 180 of how, just in my opinion, his attitude about NIL. It was like, you could tell that he was like distraught about it in December. Maybe distraught's a strong word, but he was upset about it. And then on Wednesday, man, he was confident. He was like, we're going to have a big class. We feel good about it. And you're seeing the results. They're getting like a big recruit every week, it seems like. They'll probably get a couple more tomorrow. And so, yeah, I think they've made big-time strides over the last few months. Another collective just popped up for Ohio State. The one that we're affiliated with, the Bucknuts and 24/7 Sports, is called The Foundation. That's been around for a while, too. They're doing good things. Now you got 2 big NIL collectives that are doing good things. So, yeah, the Buckeyes have made up room. There's no doubt about it. And one more thing I'll say real quick. I think it also helps Ohio State that some of these NIL deals have fallen through at other schools. The famous one where the kid that, committed the quarterback that committed to Florida, and they are going to give him like millions of dollars, and that fell through, and he went elsewhere. So I think kids are realizing that there's a little bit of bait and switch going on. But the biggest thing, Tom, is they talk to the other recruits, and the recruits are telling them, Ohio State's going to take care of you as soon as you enroll.
All right, last thing is about Ryan Day. Look, people can love the guy, hate the guy. I don't care. Urban Meyer was an unbelievable football coach, college football coach. I mean, off the charts, had everything covered, maniacal, the whole 9 yards. I mean, dialed in. Ryan Day's dialed in, a little bit different style. But now all of a sudden, back-to-back losses against Michigan. And you start to hear naturally, hey, is he in trouble? Does Harbaugh have his number? Blah, blah, blah. The Vrabel stuff from the end of the last NFL season. What do you think? I mean, is this an important year for Day?
It for sure is. I mean, I can't go as far as to say if they definitely lose to Michigan that he's going to be on the hot seat, because what if they go in there, and they're undefeated and they lose by a field goal? He's probably not going to lose his job, right? But like, as well as anybody, Tom, I mean, you lose to Michigan 3 straight times. I mean, that's going to, you're at least going to be somewhat on the hot seat. There's no doubt about it. But Ryan Day is loved around here. Not talking about every fan necessarily, but most fans love him. And I know the administration at Ohio State's very happy with him. But you need to beat Michigan. You cannot lose to them 3 straight years. And it's going to be tough. Right now, you look at it, they would be an underdog, a slight underdog, looking at the look-ahead lines. I think Ohio State would be like a 3-point dog I saw. So, man, it's tough to say. He's overall done a good job, but you can't lose to Michigan 3 straight times. I mean, again, would he definitely lose his job? I can't go that far, but it would be tough. I mean, the fans would then be getting a little riled up, to say the least. They were getting riled up this past year, so especially after just dominating Michigan for the last 20 years. So it's an absolutely huge year for Ryan Day, no doubt about it.
Well, he's tearing it up on the recruiting trail. There is no doubt about that. You alluded to it. This past 7, 8, 10 days has just been unbelievable what they have done for that 2024 class. So they're pounding the pavement and getting it done there. All right, well, Dave, we can't thank you enough for all your time today, man. Thank you so much for your generosity with your time, and we'll catch up sometime soon, I hope. All the best.
Thank you, Tom. Such a pleasure. Anytime, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Dave Biddle, he'll be covering the Buckeyes tomorrow at that spring game. They'll probably have 90-something thousand people out there tomorrow. I mean, it's unbelievable, these schools. They're not alone. I mean, Alabama will have the same thing. Tennessee, now that they're kind of back, they'll have the same thing where you're getting 90-plus thousand fans for a scrimmage.
That's insane.
It's insane. It's insane. But they're certainly, and not because they're right up the road in Columbus, they are one of the most interesting teams in all of college football to watch what's going to happen with them this year. Because they got players, but you got to have a quarterback. And nobody knew who C.J. Stroud was 2 years ago. Nobody. I want to get into it, but I won't ask him any more time because he's covered college football for so long. Getting wrapped up in that 3 and 4 and 5-star thing. I remember the kid he alluded to, Jack Miller. He was out of Scottsdale, Arizona. He's going to be the starting quarterback this year at Florida. I mean, when he came out of high school, he may not have been, where they're putting the Manning kid, who's going to be a freshman this year at Texas, but he wasn't far behind. 5-star, all-world, blah, blah, blah. He gets to Ohio State, and there's a 3-star that nobody ever heard of in Stroud. There was another 3-star, and I'm drawing a blank, who has since transferred as well. And I mean, Jack Miller couldn't even get near the field. And now he's starting at Florida. So, that old 3, 4, and 5-star thing, I know a lot of us, me included, get wrapped up in that whole thing, but I don't know. It's been brought to my attention that today is Pete Rose's birthday. Peter Edward. Happy birthday, Peter Edward.
Is it also Chris Welsh's birthday?
Yes, it is. The crafty left-hander, my old partner. Happy birthday, gentlemen, Pete and Chris. Hope you have a great day. Chris will be off today. He only announces the road games. Barry does the home games. So I hope he's made his full-time home now. Chris has out in Arizona. I've told the story that, his wife, Beth, has both of her parents right at the same time. Dementia, serious illnesses, both of them. And Chris and his wife, they moved into, his in-laws' house, took care of both of them for about the past 2 years, nonstop, 24/7. Phil, the father-in-law, Phil Myers, passed away. And the mom is still alive and living with them now out in Arizona. And I understand doing quite well. So, he's spending more and more time there. Love Chris Welsh. Good dude. Good dude. What does this say? Oh, yeah, somebody did say your old partner's birthday. Yes, indeed. What is this all about Jerome Hunter that keeps showing up?
He just announced he's coming back for another year next year.
And Jack Nungy is not.
Yeah, he's not. I mean, it would have been Nungy's 7th year in college, so can't really blame him. I thought his Instagram caption, because 4 years wasn't enough and 7 years was too many, thought that was a good caption.
He seems like a good guy.
Oh, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he seems like it.
Great guy. Yeah, genuinely good dude. But, I mean, at some point, 7 years in college. The NIL
Well, I'd love to go 7 years of college.
A-Town.
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me? They're paying for your education so you can get a master's, which he probably has by now.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Okay. He has a you could get a doctoral degree. Yeah. You get to play basketball. You're getting cash for NIL money, and you know he's getting probably some pretty decent money and would more so next year because he's a damn good player. I mean, what is the hurry? 7 years of college?
Oh,
beautiful.
Oh my God. I can't even fathom.
Oh God, I love it. Oh my God, would love it.
4 years was enough.
I don't want my kids going that long.
I
don't have that kind of dough.
Oh man.
But,
4 was enough for me.
Oh,
4 was
man.
enough.
Oh no.
For a ham and egg like,
Are you
get me out of
kidding me?
class.
For a ham and egg
Oh
like
my
me,
God.
I was done. 4 years was enough.
And right after the 7th year, it'd be time for liver surgery.
Yeah.
Well, somebody just said that. Tom would need a new liver if he went to school for 7 years. The Real Spirit Cat. You are spot on, Real Spirit Cat. One we think alike.
Could you imagine getting a doctoral degree as you've timed out all your master's degrees? You got to get it. You got to start on your doctorate to keep playing college basketball.
I think it's
Can
awesome.
you imagine how miserable that would be? I can't even wrap my head around that.
I think it would be absolutely fantastic.
Oh.
I mean, just think about the two things that I just said. You're getting your education paid for rather than taking on student loans or your mom and dad paying for your education. You're getting paid along with your education. A decent chunk of undoubtedly more than Jack Nungy's going to make next year. His first job out, unless he's playing pro ball in Israel or something. Okay? And you're playing basketball in one of the best conferences in the country, in a great town to live in, nice campus down there, selling out every game, and you're playing I mean, are you shitting me? What gets better than that? What is better than that?
Yeah, the NIL thing really has changed the game because you would have never even considered that, however many years ago. Plus, I mean, the 7 years thing is also a little unique because of all the COVID years that are coming out. But, yeah, I mean, that's just a long time. It does sound good. But I think eventually, he's married. Just kind of.
Well, that's it. That's the fly in the ointment.
Eventually,
being a college student, that is
you're
definitely
married.
the fly in the ointment.
Yeah, you're married. You're a college student. You've been there for 7 years. You've transferred. Maybe we just move on. Xavier would have loved to have had him back, though.
There's no doubt about that. I mean, it's a big
that.
hit for them. All kidding aside, and we're joking around about it. It's a big hit for them, him not coming back.
Oh, yeah.
Because that is a dominant player in the middle, 7-footer, can score, can rebound, can defend, block shots. I mean, he was a good player for them. Sometimes great player.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Jerome coming back, good addition. And
Okay.
how about Davenport going to Arkansas?
Yeah. Hey.
Must bust. Maybe he gets it together with JD.
Get rid of the White Claw stuff.
Have you ever even had a White Claw, Tom?
I've had a sip of one.
Okay.
And never again.
That bad, really?
Never
I mean,
again.
I don't drink them consistently, but they're not terrible.
No way. Just give me a good solid, cold Coors Light. Among many, many other beers, except for Bud Light. Many, many other beers that I am happy to drink.
I like myself Miller.
Are you having a beer or two tonight, Case?
Absolutely.
What about all this talk? I don't think the Reds did it. What about all this talk? They did it in Oakland, and I saw where the pitcher for somebody came out and said, this is ridiculous. Where some of the teams are extending their beer sales now at ballparks till the 8th inning because the pitch clock is speeding up the game. And I can't remember who the pitcher was, came out and said, are you kidding me? That means people can drink more beer before they get behind the wheel and drive home from the game?
Yeah,
it's a legitimate point.
Yeah, the stadiums were reporting all these losses financially already just in the first 2 weeks of the season because the games were cut short and they were losing out on beer sales. I mean, it was a staggering number in the high six figures. These teams were already losing out on. So
I mean, they need to relax. It's not even like peak summer season. Once it gets hot, people are going to start buying a lot of beer.
No, but it's a good point, though, about this thing about how fast the game. I mean, just think about it, right? If it's same as a bar. If all of a sudden you're a bar, and basically a ballpark could be considered a bar if you drink beer, right? Okay. If your bar normally closes at midnight, but you now close at 10:45, you're going to see a significant drop in sales, regardless of weather. You're closing your beer, you're shutting them down at least an hour earlier than you did before.
I mean, I get that, Tom. It's just like, what do they expect? That this is their way of sacrificing and trying to make the game better. This is their way of trying to get people to actually enjoy and watch the game, come to the game. Like, would you rather have more people come to your stadium, which if you're like the Reds, I think more people would be willing to come if it's a shorter game.
Yep.
And risk there not being as much beer sales, but you're getting more people in, so it's not like, I don't know, it's a really weird like if-then table there, because you can't really, you get more people in, you're going to get more sales, right? But if you don't get more people in, then you're going to lose out on sales anyways. So the fact that the games are shorter, I get where you're coming from, that they're going to have a loss in sales, but the point of it is that you're trying to get more people in regardless. So just have a better product on the field and you'll start getting your sales back.
There's no doubt about that. Legitimate point here made by the player formerly known as Mouse Cop. It's not a good point, alluding to the player who said it was ridiculous to extend the beer sales. He says, how about we police ourselves a little better? Instead of having to cut off sales for all of one or two bad apples. That's a very good point. What does it mean when they say dilly dilly? What is that?
That's the
Bud
Bud
Light's
Light
motto.
Yeah.
It
Remember all
is?
the
I remember the commercial. Okay, all right,
So,
all right. Yeah,
you
it's
know
when they had somebody else who ran a fratty, to quote the new marketing strategy person now at Bud Light. Their former marketing strategy was fratty and too old. So she had to change it now. How's that going?
You know,
$6 billion loss in market capitalization. Go ahead.
I used the phrase dilly dilly to end my best man speech for my cousin.
Really?
Yeah.
You want somebody to end their best man? Is that Tomas? Is he your best man?
He's my best man, yeah.
Okay, so do you want him to end your
Best man speech?
best man speech with that? You be okay with it?
He can do whatever he wants.
Okay. Tomas is elite, says Sir Boy Wonder.
He is elite.
Okay.
Best of the
Good.
best.
Okay. All right. We have Matthew Lane coming up here in a matter of moments to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs.
Maybe I should take off my Reds gear before he gets on.
Tell you what, I was reading a lengthy piece today about the Chiefs and the way their offseason has gone. We know they brought in Taylor, to basically replace Orlando Brown Jr. We'll get into all this with Matt here in a few minutes. They've lost a lot of guys on this team who you may not think are star players necessarily. Frank Clark is gone. Carlos Dunlap is gone. Guys that gave them some good moments.
Yeah.
Certainly against the Bengals. Dunlap, Clark, they still have Jones. They only have, I think it's $4.5 million cap space left to address some of this and what they might do in the draft. Smith-Schuster is gone. He's up in New England now. So, we asked the question, and thanks, guys, in the chat for bringing this up, Everett and Sir Boy Wonder and so on and so forth. We ask the question all the time about, are the Bengals better today than they were when the season ended last year? Now, you have to take into account that their offensive line was ravaged with injuries once they got into the postseason. We know that. We know that Williams didn't play. Collins had gone down. Kappa was down. So, maybe it's not fair to ask it in that way. I'd probably prefer to ask the question, which I haven't done, so shame on me. Are they better than the team that ended, let's say, the regular season last year? Or the team maybe even in mid-December, which had got on that long run, won 8 in a row into the playoffs before losing the championship game to Kansas City when they had all their quote-unquote horses, right? They're regular guys. Because I think it was, 15 weeks in a row they started the same 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah, 15 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So, perhaps that's a better question to ask. Some of the chat are saying, no, the Bengals are not better. Are the Chiefs better? Okay.
I don't think the Chiefs are better than they were last year, but maybe that's me being biased.
And the offseason, as Everett points out, is not finished.
No.
Your draft is a huge part of the offseason.
That's right. It is. It's very important. I think out of everyone in the draft that was playoff contenders, made a deep push, some teams we're not talking about enough, like the Eagles, they got 2 first-rounders, and they were just Super Bowl runner-ups.
Yeah.
Chiefs being at, 32, I think they're going to have plenty of options. This draft is got a lot of talent. It's not got a lot of top-end talent, but it's really stacked with quality starting type players.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting to really see how the draft shakes up. I'm always a huge draft nerd. I just study the dickens out of players 1 through 150.
All right, so give me one name, Casey, since you – Paul, go ahead.
Well, I just want to ask real quick. Matt Lane knows it's Eastern time, right? I'm sorry I have to ask this on the air, but
Let me check his
I just want to check and make sure that he knows that it's Eastern time. Because he's always been right on time with us.
11:30 Eastern was his question.
Okay.
Yes.
That's fine. Just want to check and make sure.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. You said
no,
you had a
I was
question.
just starting to ask, Casey, since you follow this draft stuff so closely and follow some of these players and, all that kind of stuff. Give me 1 or 2 names of somebody out there. You've talked about DeJuan Jones, and maybe he's 1 or 2 of the names before. But give me 1 or 2 names of a guy that could end up being the 28th pick in the draft for the Bengals that we have not talked a lot about.
Okay. Darnell Wright, which is the name that was dropped from Jay Morrison. I think that would be their number 1 choice. Emmanuel Forbes, he's the corner from, I think, Mississippi State. It's an SEC team. He's a smaller guy. I personally would not reach on a guy like that just because of the weight issue, but he plays very well. He's got a lot of really good tape. Comes up and makes a lot of good plays in the run game, which is very surprising for his weight, especially in the SEC. Deontay Banks, that's another corner that could possibly fall to them. He's kind of in the top 20-ish range right now. Dalton Kincaid, a tight end. I know we talk a lot about Michael Mayer, especially on this show. Really good athletic pass catching tight end. I think that could be an option for them as well. Another couple of players that are defensive guys that come to mind that would really help boost the pass rush of the Bengals. Kalijah Cansey.
Yep.
That was also dropped on.
I feel like
Jay's
we've heard
show.
that name a lot.
He has got the shortest arms ever recorded for a defensive tackle, which is your biggest scare. He's got like 29-inch wingspan, which is like
Casey. 29-inch wingspan.
Well, 29 from.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, should clarify.
T-Rex arms.
Yeah, he's got small arms, which, Geno Atkins was very similar to that. He had I think 31-inch.
Not a bad player.
Yeah, not a bad player. So you can't really take a whole lot away from that. But he is a smaller defensive tackle. He's like 280, but really good in pass rush. Will McDonald, that's one that is not talked a lot about in Bengals spaces, but that's a guy I really like. Fits the Bengals mold, that 6'4", 260 type guy, really long. I think he recorded the longest arm span, which is the complete opposite of Kalijah Cansey, in the draft process. He's from, I think, Minnesota or Iowa State, one of those two. So he's a Big Ten guy or a Big 12 guy. And he to me is the sneaky guy to me. I think he's someone that would fit the Bengals mold a lot, brings really good pass rush, defends the run really well. He's in my top 5 pass rushers, at least in this draft class, which is saying a lot because there's a lot in this draft class. I see Brian Brees a lot. That's not one of my favorites. I see the other Clemson pass rusher, Miles Murphy. He's also not really one of my favorites either. It's really hard to gauge.
It's weird. The Clemson thing, for as many great players as they've had, especially on defense, they have not had the run of great pros on the defensive line like some other schools have had. It's kind of weird. All right, so where are you saying, if you were a betting man?
Yeah.
Give me. You've already talked about some of them. But if you were a betting man and you had to bet, and I know you don't have a crystal ball and you can't decide who's picking in front of the Bengals, what they're going to do. If you had to bet position, I asked Jay Morrison this question.
Yeah.
In order. He wouldn't give them to me in order. In order. Position of need. Where are they going? First round pick. It's either A, B, C. Put them in order. What do you think?
If a tackle falls to them, that's number 1 for sure. I think second is corner. I think third is probably your defensive line, edge rusher type guy.
Okay.
He said tight end. He wouldn't put it in order. In my opinion, I think they're going to wait.
Let me interrupt real quick. Yeah. Matt is saying he does not have a link.
I sent him an email.
Got saved in the drafts.
Let me send him another email, or I can just message him on Twitter if that's.
Yeah, tell him we'll DM it to him.
Tell him what?
We'll DM it to him on Twitter.
All right.
Yeah, I just sent it to him on Twitter. So we'll get Matt Lane in here very shortly, but I don't think tight end is – I don't think it should be on the Bengals' list of priorities high in the first round, but that's just because I think you get better value later on in the draft. However, there is a real possibility that all the tight ends fall because tight end is just not a very it's not a very highly – touted position to draft.
Yep.
It's a lot like the running backs. It's not as bad as running backs, but it's up there. And there's a lot of question marks with Kincaid with his injury history. I personally would stay away from guys that have a problem with their back. That's just me. If you can remember Cedric Ogbuehi, I'm staying far away from that. Michael Mayer, he to me is, like I said, he's got a limited athleticism. You're not going to get a guy like Travis Kelce, and you're not going to get a guy that is –
who, by the way, Travis Kelce, many may not remember, out of UC, was a third-round pick.
Right. A lot of the great tight ends that you would name are in the second, third round. There's very few and far in between that are first-round guys that have really panned out and worked out. But I don't know. Michael Mayer, he does a lot of things on the field that just mentally that's why I think he's so far.
He's
up
a special dude.
He's a special dude in terms of just spatial awareness, positioning his body in certain ways to make contested catches that, that's why I think he's very high up on the board. He can also inline block, which is very, very good, especially in today's day and age where there's not very many inline blocking tight ends. You got a lot of like H-backs, guys that need like the help in the double team and whatnot. Michael Mayer's not that guy. He's going to be able to, take on a guy one-on-one on the edge. But let me set up Matt Lane really quickly.
Okay, cool. Cool. You go back and look at Kelce. I love to get Jason Kelce on the show sometime. I think that, or Travis Kelce, I think that his brother Jason, of course, is an all-pro every year for Philadelphia as their center. But I'd love to get that dude. I don't know if there's any chance of that. I'm going to reach out and see if we can't have it happen because his whole story is really unbelievable. When you look at, he was coming out of high school up in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and the only scholarships he was offered were Akron and Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio, UC. Really, the only reason he went to UC is because his brother was already down there. He's a quarterback in the Wildcat formation his first year. His second year, he gets suspended from the team. His third year, and now all of a sudden, here we go, right? But then it's a third-round draft pick. I think he was 83rd or 63rd. What was he that year? Had to be 83rd. 63rd pick, round 3. And now he's the best tight end in the NFL, 8-time Pro Bowler. The irony is that, he's already set records in the NFL for most 1,000 receiving yard seasons by a tight end, 7 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons by a tight end, 7 receiving yards in a single season by a tight end, over 1,400 in a year. This guy, but many will tell you in Kansas City, he might be the second greatest tight end in the history of the NFL when all is said and done, but he'd be the second greatest tight end in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs when all is said and done. Because they had some dude named Tony Gonzalez there who wasn't too bad.
I would say so.
Not too shabby. Gonzalez holds every record as far as his total receptions, yards, but who knows? I mean, Kelce just keeps right on rolling. He can rub you the wrong way a little bit, though. You know what I mean? Saturday Night Live and, some of the stuff. Does he rub you the wrong way at all?
Kelce?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's just – I don't know. I sometimes try to separate what I think about him from being a Bengals fan from being what I would think about him if I was a Chargers fan.
Oh, yeah.
Or no, sorry, Chargers fan because no, I would say like I'm trying to think of the most neutral who's a team in like the Seahawks.
Right, who cares, right?
Where it's like you just have no opinion because a lot of the things you think about when you're a Bengals fan of Travis Kelce, like getting up on the stage, making some comments like that, you're like, hey, you're kind of rolling.
Well, hey, we've said it all along on this program, if you're going to talk the talk, you better be able to handle the heat coming back the other way. I mean, because there was a lot of smack talking going on by a lot of people here in Cincinnati, including that mayor we have here. Did you guys, you don't live in the city. You live in the city, Paul. Did you get to vote for that mayor we have here?
The jabroni?
Oh, I didn't vote for him.
All right. All right. Well, I know Jason Lane didn't vote for him.
Or Matt Lane.
I mean, Matt Lane. I'm sitting here. I'm talking about Jason Kelce here a second ago. Matt Lane joining us, kind enough to join us, and has been a friend of the program. We appreciate it. Writer and analyst for KC Sports Network answer me a question here now real quick, Matt.
Okay.
And I asked our guys a question. Even as a Kansas City Chiefs guy, right, and you cover the team in the whole 9 yards, does Travis Kelce just rub some people the wrong way, or is he one of those guys where he plays on your team, you love the dude?
Oh, it's definitely the latter. I mean, I think he's, outside of Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be like the most commonly placed favorite Chiefs player for most fans right now.
Yeah, I figured that was the answer. I mean, what a player. It's unbelievable what a player. Heck, the Bengals wish they had him. They don't. I asked this question, Matt, about the Bengals on a regular basis. And I'm going to ask you the same question as it pertains to the Chiefs. As we sit here today, less than 2 weeks away from the draft, and less than a couple of months removed from winning another Super Bowl there in Kansas City, are the Chiefs better today than they were at the end of last year, at least on paper?
That's a tricky one. I think defensively, yes. I think defensively, some of the moves they've made with Drew Tranquill, Charles Omenihu, I think those will pay kind of big dividends going along with like the young guys developing going into the next year. So defensively, yes. Offensively, I don't know. They're putting a lot of pressure on young wide receivers as of right now to pick up slack, to develop quickly, and replace Juju Smith-Schuster, who didn't have this, all-pro level year, but he was clearly their second best receiving weapon, the guy that they relied on the most after Travis Kelce. And I think you saw that in big moments, and they don't really have a replacement for him right now that's very proven. So offensively, it's a little more up in the air. Defensively, I would say they are.
When you say defensively, and I'm not going to say it surprises me because I'm not familiar with some of these young players that they're ready to obviously hand over the reins to, so to speak. What I do know is when the Bengals and Chiefs played in the AFC Championship game last year, Jones, who had done nothing against the Bengals in like 5 prior games, was the best player on the field. I think he turned out to be the best player on the field, period, of any player on any team in the NFL postseason last year. But Dunlap and Clark did some good things for this team. Do they feel like some of these younger guys are going to be able to replace him, if not be better than them?
Yeah, that's definitely the way they're angling towards. Carlos Dunlap and George Karlaftis kind of split reps. I think Dunlap probably did play a little better than him last year, but that's kind of expected for a rookie. I think it's really the addition of Charles Omenihu that carries a lot of the weight of, like, especially the defensive front being better. Just his versatility, he brings a little bit more juice to the pass rush. The Chiefs don't have a lot of explosive edge rushers off the side. Frank Clark at this point in his career, Carlos Dunlap, it's a lot of power. It's a lot of just kind of crushing the pocket, waiting for Chris Jones to do his thing. I think Omenihu brings an element that they didn't have last year. So, from that aspect, I just think that his addition is going to make them a little better. You expect Karlaftis to be at least a little better than he was last year, and he was already getting a good chunk of reps. So that's why I have a little bit of faith in that defensive line to be able to replace a Clark and a Dunlap. And to be fair, both are still free agents. I would almost be a little surprised if one of them isn't back in Kansas City before training camp really gets rolling.
Okay. The secondary was very young last year. The Chiefs proved that you can play a young secondary and you can win a Super Bowl. The Bengals are staring down the barrel to a lesser extent than the Chiefs were last year, playing a lot of young guys. But let's talk about the one Chief that did leave, the big fish in the sea, if you will, and that being Orlando Brown Jr. Are you surprised, before we talk about the guy you brought in to replace him, are you surprised that Brown is no longer a Chief?
Kind of. It did seem like they tried last year to sign him long term. So that was their goal. Their goal was to keep him and sign him long term. I do think what we saw last year from Orlando Brown Jr. though is he never really took that final step. He got better, but he never really elevated his game to that next level that was going to force the Chiefs to pay him like a top 5 left tackle. And I think that's what he was hoping for. So when we got to the end of the season and you just saw his kind of growth just kind of flatlined a little bit with the Chiefs, I think at that point it was, if he doesn't come down on his price, it's probably not going to happen. And it just never sounded like he was willing to come down to what the Chiefs thought he was going to be worth with them. Now, obviously, once he hit free agency and it becomes open to everybody else, you probably feel a little bit less or more willing to take a little bit less money than you would have from the team that was employing you previously.
Taylor gets brought in to basically replace him. That's a little bit younger version. Do they feel like – in other words, what did they like more about Taylor? Was it the price? Was it the youth? Was it the skill level that they liked better about him than they did Brown?
The youth, well, they're both young, so I can't even say youth. It's going to be more of the scheme fit, right? It's going to be more of just Orlando Brown Jr. is a very good left tackle, but playing in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes, who doesn't have the greatest pocket discipline. So he'll drop far, he'll drift, he's moving up, back, left, right, and that's asking Orlando Brown Jr. to redirect his momentum multiple times in a snap. It's asking him to stay connected to guys that are more athletic than him, and that just wasn't where Orlando Brown Jr. was his best at. Like, that wasn't the best situation for him, whereas Taylor, I think, a little bit lighter on his feet, has a little bit better lateral agility. So if you're thinking, okay, you're going to have him block to 7 yards deep, but he might have to redirect inside or run his block around a little bit deeper in the pocket because of Mahomes, they probably feel a little bit more comfortable with Taylor doing that than they did Orlando Brown Jr., because that's just like the area where he starts to struggle a little bit.
When you look at the offensive line as a group, there is a hole now over there at right tackle. Where is the team there? Is that something they're looking in the draft? Do they feel like they have a young player who's ready to take over that spot?
It's hard to tell. They drafted Lucas Niang in the 3rd round a couple years ago. He hasn't really been able to get on the field. He sat out the COVID year. He came in and started a little bit for the team before suffering an injury. It took him a long time to get back. So they don't know what they have in Lucas Niang, but they were excited for him when they drafted him and brought him in. So maybe they're holding on a little bit of hope still there that he can come in and compete. But outside that, I would imagine it's definitely coming from the draft. I don't know how comfortable they are with Lucas Niang being given the starting spot, but I think they're okay with him competing. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them wait until day 2, maybe even early day 3 to bring in another tackle to compete with him. I don't think they're in a rush to necessarily replace him, although I don't know if they're just going to be happy handing him the keys to that job again.
Walk me through the running back situation a little bit, because 2 years ago, I think his all-purpose yards were something like over 11 or 1,200, talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Then last year, Pacheco comes in. Nobody had ever heard of Pacheco, 7th-round pick. Unbelievable athlete. I'll be the first to admit I didn't know who Pacheco was, but when you watch that dude play and watch him run, it just blows my mind that these so-called NFL experts and scouts did not see something from this dude in college, which wouldn't lead you to believe that he certainly was better than a 7th-round pick, but that's where he ends up. But look, this time last year, Edwards-Helaire was a guy everybody was talking about in Kansas City, good-looking player. He's still technically on the roster. Does he have a chance? Will he get a chance to get his job back?
I mean, if he's still on the roster, the Chiefs will keep things mostly as an open competition, but I think it's going to be hard to supplant Pacheco as the de facto starter right now. The issue the Chiefs are kind of running into with the running back room is Pacheco, very good player. Everybody likes him and what he's going to, but he's not a complete runner. He's it's a one-speed runner. He's going to hit the hole. He's going to hit it hard. He's coming downhill. They don't have someone that's going to operate with a little more patience, someone that's going to be looking to just change their pace a little bit more. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be that guy, but they're going into their final year with him. They didn't pick up, or they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. He has struggled to stay healthy. He's struggled to really carve out a role since his rookie year on this team. So they might look to add, whether it's just bringing Jerick McKinnon back in free agency or in the draft. I do think they are going to look for another running back to pair with Pacheco. And as right now, I don't think they have confidence that that's going to be Clyde. So I don't know where it's going to come from, but I would be a little surprised if Clyde isn't the running back 3 once the season starts rather than the running back 2.
Okay. All right. Well, Matt, we thank you so much for your time here today and talking about the Chiefs. This has turned into a nice little rivalry between your city and our city here, and hopefully it continues for a long, long time to come.
It's been fun. Thank you guys for having me on. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to see each other get in the AFC Championship game, just like it seems like we're destined to do for a couple years now.
Well, we're going to see it before that, because the Bengals got to come back into Arrowhead Stadium again during the regular season, which could be the very first game of the NFL season. We'll wait until May to find out that. But if I'm the NFL, I don't know if it gets any better than that game as a season opener.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely get the most viewers. That's still an Amazon game on Thursday. I don't know entirely what the schedule does, so I'd be interested to see how they do it. But that's going to be that Thursday night opener, if I'm not mistaken, if that'd be the case. And I don't know if the NFL wants to let the big networks let that one go to Amazon if it's still Amazon.
I think that NBC gets the first game of the year.
Okay.
Year. I think. I could be wrong. And of course that's always changing. So who knows? Anyway, it's going to be fun when they do play. And have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you, guys. You guys do the same.
All right. Great to have him with us. Chiefs football, Casey, gets you all fired up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you get so worked up about the Chiefs.
He just left. But I was just about to say, if we do make another trip out there, Chatterbox company trip, it would be cool to meet up with him. And I know he's not exactly from Kansas City.
No, I think he's in North Carolina.
He's in North Carolina.
I think that's what he said when we first had him on. But he's really tuned into everything that is, you don't have to live there. I mean, they have other guys for that network that are going to cover the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, like you said, a rivalry that is going to last for a long time.
Yep.
As long as Mahomes and Burrow are playing for their teams respectively, I think it's always going to be talked about. It's always going to be a big game, regardless of how either team is doing. They are destined rivals, and I'm excited for that. I think it's going to be fun every single year. I don't think we're ever going to really get a bad game from them. So
I agree with you. I agree. They've all been great. Okay, before we hand it over, Reed Mouse on his way in here for boxed lunch. He'll be joined by Paul, Casey, and the crew. It's like the Beatles. Paul, the crew. Do we have a cherry on top today?
We had the one from yesterday, which actually here, I'm going to bring it back up. We're not going to throw it up on the screen, but I'm going to bring it up because it's the one we were going to use yesterday. Just a quick take from you on this. Did you see that Salt Lake City put in a bid for a Major League Baseball team?
I did not see that.
Yeah. Salt Lake City, Jeff Passan tweeted this out 2 days ago. A Salt Lake City consortium led by the former owner of the Utah Jazz plans to pursue a Major League Baseball expansion franchise in the coming years.
Okay.
They have a AAA team out there.
Yes. Beautiful town, beautiful area, part of the country. Would draw like Denver does from a lot of different surrounding regions. Hey, there are worse places you can go than Salt Lake City, I'll tell you that. There are a lot worse cities you can go to than Salt Lake City. Last thing, fellas. Casey, you talked about going to the game tonight.
Yeah.
I just want to get your very quick impressions, boys, because you know what else opens today?
What would that be?
Kings Island.
Oh.
You guys big Kings Island guys before we get to box lunch? Yay or nay? I mean, get on all the rides, roller coasters.
I know it sounds like I'm 10 years old, but I love a good roller coaster.
Amen, brother. Amen.
I love a good roller coaster.
Amen.
I'm not ashamed to admit it. I know it sounds like I'm 10, but
no, it doesn't.
Roller
coasters are for everybody.
Yeah.
Love a good roller coaster.
I like roller coasters a lot. I like Kings Island on days where they're not super crowded. I can't do crowded days at Kings Island. It's just, to me, that's boring, and you're just usually getting beat down by the sun, and you're just standing in line. And you only ride 4 rides in the day. It's just boring.
He's out on Kings Island.
I'm out
so
on
much
Kings
for that
Island.
sponsorship.
I'm out on Kings Island when it's busy. I am gravy.
Yeah, Tracy's getting ready to meet with them in about 4 or 5 minutes from now. So
Is he?
There it goes.
Casey,
Right in the tank.
Casey, you live in Mason now. You gonna get a gold pass?
That's right.
I might. I mean, why not? I could walk down there probably.
So I know a couple people that live out in Mason. You can get a pass now at Kings Island where you eat for free. It's incorporated in the cost of the pass. They have a little couple buffets. You go there, and it's like $220 for the year, something not bad. And I know people that live in Mason.
Dude, that's pretty good.
They go there
so you
for
get in the park and you eat whatever you want, whenever you want.
There's very specific.
Right.
There's very specific places you go where they have like buffets and stuff like that, and you just go there and you get pizza, chicken fingers, whatever the normal concession stand food is. But I know people that live out in Mason. They get this pass, and they'll just be sitting around on a Tuesday evening when the park's open and just be like, hey, you want to go to Kings Island for dinner? And
boy, now that's pretty cool.
They drive on out there, ride a roller coaster or two, get something to eat, then leave. There for an hour and a half. It's a great – just saying, Casey.
I think that's in fact, right here, who said it? Everett says, hey, it's one of the cheapest ways to eat any food. All honestly, he said it's great.
Right.
Okay. I didn't know that.
That's
I'm going to be an empty nester this time next year, so maybe I'll do that.
You like roller coasters?
Because my wife, I love roller coasters. Man, I'd go anywhere to get on roller coasters. Love them.
Nice.
Love them. All right, boys. Have a good weekend. Casey, enjoy the ball game tonight.
Well, thank you.
Paul, any big plans? Anything going on?
Baseball tonight, baseball doubleheader tomorrow. So these
Miami.
Guys, no, I'm with Xavier. These guys
Xavier, they've
Miami.
won 11 in a row.
Won 11 in a row. 20th ranked Huskies coming into town. But these guys have the number 1 ranked Oklahoma Sooners coming into town.
How about that?
Number 1 ranked team in the country coming to
Number
Miami.
1 team in the country.
Back-to-back national champions.
How about that?
Be like Alabama coming and playing at Yager Stadium against the Miami Redhawks. Alabama football, right?
That's right. And Miami hand them their tail.
Right.
Root for Miami to beat everybody except for, you know it, boys, the Ohio University. All right, Casey, Paul, thank you. Box lunch, here we go. Have a great weekend, everybody.
I must admit, I didn't think much of this show the first time I laid eyes on it. Seemed like a bunch of stiffs wasting nice
the worst
microphones.
trade of all time happened back in 1803. Go ahead. Napoleon Bonaparte traded the Louisiana Purchase for $3 million. Napoleon, what happened? Half the country for $3 million. You can't even get Tucker Barnhart for $3 million.
Then I came to realize these guys are funny.
And Justin Fields have identical stats the last 5 weeks about throwing the football. This guy, okay,
And
folks,
are
is a
some of the
fidget
best
spinner.
gamblers I've come to know.
If you're betting on USC and or TCU, let it be known you are a square.
TCU is going to hammer this team tomorrow night.
I hate to hear that.
Tomorrow
when we come back
afternoon.
in here on Monday, you're going to be happy as a lark because USC lost, but you're going to be wrong about TCU.
Get ready for the most useless hour of your day. It's time for Boxed Lunch, presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Now, Casey, run that track.
Four out of 10. 4 out of 10. Not your best, but I mean, there's only so many royalty-free music out there. So much royalty-free music. So many hits.
I know this wasn't my best one, mainly because I totally forgot to grab royalty-free music, so I just grabbed the first one that I saw and.
You didn't even listen to that?
Didn't even listen to it, so.
I wish that would have been something else.
He just played one. Would have just said, "Hey, let's run." He said, "Casey, run that track," and he ran that track.
He ran the track.
All right, guys.
Let's go, baby.
Let's do it. Yeah, final box lunch of the week. It's Friday, April 15th. I'm Reed Mouse. This is presented.
Also the 14th.
Oh, it's 14th. Tomorrow's the 15th. Sorry.
It's all right.
Tomorrow's my dad's birthday, so I keep getting that my dad's birthday is this weekend, and I got to hang out with him tonight because I can't hang out with him tomorrow because of the Miami game. So I keep saying that it is the 15th. So apologize for that. This is presented by Betfred Sportsbook. Casey McAllister, Paul Frischner. Guys, how you doing?
We're doing great, Reed. How you doing?
Doing well. You excited for the Muskies? Got a big game against the Huskies.
We have some good round ball. Well, we wouldn't call it round ball. What do we call it? Good hard ball.
They're both round.
Good hard ball in the tri-state area this weekend.
Hardball is actually what you can't say because they play softball.
Softball.
So hardball is what you can't say.
That's the one you couldn't do.
I looked up Oklahoma softball. Obviously, they're number 1 team in the country. Obviously, they're back-to-back national champions. They have made the College World Series of softball 11 of the last 12 years. So this is just an absolute powerhouse coming into town. They're probably staying right here in Hamilton, Ohio, the Courtyard Marriott, right down the town, right down right down the street. So hopefully those games get in because of, there's inclement weather coming in.
You'll get them in
Sunday.
tomorrow.
We're going to play tomorrow, but Miami plays Oklahoma Sunday morning, so hopefully they get that game in. We're really excited to call that game. So if you guys want to watch some good softball, be sure to tune in tomorrow. That's going on from 11 a.m. The final game is scheduled, Louisville versus Oklahoma at 5 p.m., so be sure to check in for that. So let's go and just go ahead and start talking about the Cincinnati Reds. Got a big win last night. Nick Lodolo got a win. He went 5 innings strong, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and I had a big segment last time that Nick Lodolo pitched, just talking about how much of a believer I am in Nick Lodolo as once again, not a Reds fan. And you just watch him pitch, and it's hard to watch him and think that he's anything other than a budding star, and he's an all-star talent. And I think Tom said it best on the show earlier when he said, it is a true testament to a pitcher when you don't have your best stuff, right? When you go out and you're warming up in the bullpen, you're throwing those first couple warm-up pitches out on the mound, and the stuff's just not there, and you really got to work hard to get outs. And that's what Nick Lodolo did last night. And the Reds, as a complete team, won the game. And you got to start wondering, how many pitchers in Major League Baseball through this first 2 weeks of the season are pitching better than Nick Lodolo? Now, there's a couple arms in the NL Central that are probably right there. I mean, Freddie Peralta from the Brewers has been outstanding. Marcus Stroman from the Cubs has been good. But Nick Lodolo has been just as good as them, if not even better. The strikeout numbers are staggering from Nick Lodolo for the first 3 starts of the season. He's just been absolutely incredible. And did you guys get to watch the game at all last night to see Nick Lodolo pitch at all?
No, I turned it on right after he got taken out.
Yeah, I only got to watch the final inning because I realized that they were winning and they were about to win. So
that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Baseball is actually great because you don't have to lock in for the entire game. You don't feel like you missed something if you don't see every single pitch, every single inning. You can just be like, oh, yeah, Cubs are playing. Oh, yeah, the Reds are playing. Let's turn it in. And, no, I will not admit that I'm a Reds fan because I'm not a Reds fan. My dad's a diehard Reds fan, and my brothers are diehard Reds fans. My friends are diehard Reds fans, but I am not a Reds fan. One day I do hope that the Reds are good enough to compete for a pennant, and I hope that it is at the exact same time that the Cubs are competing for a pennant so that we get a playoff series between those two. That is as good of a baseball or good of a sports experience that I think I can imagine, where the Reds and the Cubs are battling out in the NLCS for 7 games. If that ever came out to be, it'd be tough because obviously only one team can win the division. One team would have to be a wild card team. You'd have to shake some things around. But if that ever happened where they're playing in the NLCS, there'd be nothing better than that. One thing, I hope Kirby is watching, but I noticed that Connor Overton, and this is where the rotation shift. We're going to work really quickly through these Reds topics because I think we have some better discussion things later on. We are doing the chat power rankings later, but Connor Overton got the jump up in the rotation, and I don't know if we've talked about this before on Off the Bench, but he got the jump up in front of Graham Ashcraft. So instead of going Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Graham Ashcraft, they are now going Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, then Connor Overton, then Graham Ashcraft. And you have to think that the reason for that is that every single series now, you're going to face 2 of the big 3. Beforehand, that wouldn't always be the case. Every 3-game series, you might get a series where you're seeing all 3 of them, but then the next series, you're only going to see Hunter Green. And now, because of the move around, every single series, you're going to see 2 of the 3 pitchers go out against the team, which gives the Reds just an even better chance to take every single series, right? You're limping one game. Maybe you can sneak out that game today being the Connor Overton game. But you're always going to see 2 arms. And I know this is a 4-game series against the Phillies, but just an interesting decision by David Bell that I think is really going to pay off. So that's all the Red stuff I have to have. I'm going to look at the chat. Any native fans, Justin Vade, GABP, can't wait for September. There's nothing better than being around a bunch of Cubs fans. But I was making the J-Bar, and when I was making the J-Bar this morning, I saw in the chat some things that you guys were talking about, and you guys were talking about sports movies. I saw you guys talking up. Casey, you have seen The Sandlot.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Casey, Paul, I'm going to throw this question to you guys.
Yeah.
What is your guys' favorite sports movie?
I really enjoy Moneyball. I think Moneyball is a good movie. Favorite movie, though, overall, favorite sports movie? It's not The Rookie was what got me into baseball, Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
Love The Rookie.
That's a good one.
I've seen that movie probably 100 times. But I think my favorite sports movie is Friday Night Lights.
Remember the Titans and facing the Giants?
Or the Little Giants?
Little Giants?
No, not Little Giants. It's a football movie.
Yeah, Little Giants is a football movie.
I grew up right down the road from where Remember the Titans, from T.C. Williams High School.
Facing the Giants. I have never seen this movie.
It's got that, like, I don't know if y'all seen the clip of the guy.
It looks, I'm not going to lie. I'm just looking at it. It looks terrible.
Well, it's poor production, but
what movie?
Facing the Giants.
Facing the Giants. It's got a all-time classic moment where this coach is screaming at this kid to keep pushing, and he's bear crawling from one end of the field to the other end, and it was always played for our high school team because it's also like a very Christian-based movie. But
oh yeah,
all right.
Yeah, it was a good. I love that one just from that scene alone.
You know what I love about the movie that Remember the Titans? And it's a great movie. And I have a list of movies or sports, I guess, and what sports make the best movies. And admittedly, I think football inherits itself to not making the best movies. I can make the case for about 6 other sports that make better movies than football. But Remember the Titans is a great movie because there is a town, and I saw a comedian talking about this one time. The plot of this movie is that this town is so inherently racist. These two schools merged together, so racist, hate each other, and it all gets solved in one high school football season. Just all the problems that this town had just solved in 90 minutes over the course of a movie, making winning a state championship. And maybe that's how we solve everything in this world. Just if the United States, with all of its problems, just got to face another country in American football, North American football, maybe America would just solve it all right then and there. Take the Remember the Titans route. But my favorite baseball movie is Bull Durham. You guys Bull Durham fans?
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's good. I've only seen it one time, so I don't want to sit here and quote the whole thing, but it's good.
You mentioned Moneyball.
Yeah.
Have I ever told you my problems with Moneyball? So in Moneyball, they make the Athletics seem like they are a terrible team.
Yeah.
They make it seem like they're just dog water, right? This team can't win it all. Subtracting the fact that they won 100 games the year before, subtracting the fact they made the postseason 2 previous seasons, the Athletics in 2002, the season where Moneyball takes place, not only had the Cy Young winner on the team, Barry Zito, they also had the most valuable player on the team in Miguel Tejada. And those two names are never brought up one time in the entire Moneyball movie. The entire movie, they never talk about their starting shortstop that has hit 140 RBIs. They never talk about their left-hander that won 20-plus games and I think led the league in strikeouts. Big old curveball, Barry Zito. That's my only problem with Moneyball is they just completely ignore the fact that this team was a very good team. And I get that they filled the pieces. I get the point of the movie was that they subverted from typical baseball logic, typical baseball team building, and did something new. That's the whole point of the movie. But it just seems like a complete misfire to not mention the fact that you had the best pitcher in the league and the best player in the league in Miguel Tejada and Barry Zito in 2002. But they also had Mark Mulder. Their team was absolutely stacked. So that's my only problems with Moneyball. But I do find myself completely watching all those clips once over and over again.
I do take a lot of these movies with a grain of salt, like Rudy.
Yeah,
I love Rudy. You got to take it a little bit with a grain of salt. I'm just trying to think of some of the other ones off the top of my head.
We haven't really mentioned like Benchwarmers or
some
of the comedies that were like
Major League.
Major
League's a great one. I like You ready for a hot take? Major League 2 is better than Major League 1. And the reason I think that is because the premise of Major League 1 is that they're losers trying to learn how to win, right? And Major League 2 is having to deal with success, which I think in terms of plot is a much more cherishing plot device, right? Trying to learn how to deal with success as opposed to trying to succeed. So I think Major League 2 is better than Major League 1. But so baseball clearly I think makes the best sports movies. Bull Durham, For the Love of the Game, basically anything with Kevin Costner. You can throw Field of Dreams in there as well. The Natural's great. If you want kids sports movies, obviously The Sandlot, Rookie of the Year, Little Big League, all these movies, baseball clearly makes the best because of just how romantic you can get about baseball, just the storylines that go around in baseball. I would argue that the second best sport for movies is boxing.
Yeah.
Cinderella Man, $1 Million Baby, of course the Rocky franchise, the Creed franchise, which is going on right now.
I liked Creed 1, but I didn't latch on to the Creed movies like I was really hoping that I would. I was very excited about those movies, and it didn't grasp me. I don't know. Maybe it did to you guys.
Yeah, have you seen Southpaw?
No, I haven't.
It's good. Boxing makes great movies too because once again, I think it's the storylines that happen outside of the sport that kind of build it better than other sports.
What's the one with Mark Wahlberg?
The Fighter? Talking about The Fighter?
I don't know the title, but
with Christian Bale and Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg.
Is that the Fighter?
Yeah, The Fighter.
Okay.
You know,
I didn't remember the name.
He's from
of
Boston, so you got to drop that off.
I got it.
You got to drop that off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one too. After that, I would say it goes baseball, boxing, and then basketball. I think basketball makes great movies.
Yep.
Hoosiers is a great one. You guys like Blue Chips? You guys ever seen Blue Chips?
Haven't seen Blue Chips. What about Glory Road?
Glory Road's a good one.
Good movie.
I think basketball makes fantastic movies. So this is where you think maybe football. It's got Remember the Titans, Any Given Sunday, some of the kids' movies, Friday Night Lights. Golf, I think, makes better movies than football. You've got The Legend of Bagger Vance, Tin Cup, Greatest Game Ever Played, Bobby Jones, Stroke of Genius. These are all fantastic movies. If you haven't seen the golf movies, they're great. Caddyshack, of course, is a classic, not only in sports movies, but also in comedies. And still ahead of football, I would have horse racing. I think horse racing makes better movies than football movies. You're talking Secretariat, Seabiscuit, amongst them.
Secretariat was so good.
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
Such
a good movie.
You know what really the problem is with football movies is that anytime that there is any action regarding football, it just looks so corny and cheesy. Like, it's just terrible. Like, it's not even – like, it's fake.
Well, so
in other sport movies, you don't necessarily know that.
Well, that's not the case. It depends on what sport you grew up watching. So I grew up around baseball. Anytime I watch a baseball movie, more often than not, it looks pretty corny and cheesy because it doesn't look like they're actually playing baseball. That's why I actually like Kevin Costner in movies, because Kevin Costner actually looks like an athlete when he does baseball movies, in Bull Durham and in For the Love of the Game. You grew up around basketball. Most basketball movies look pretty cheesy, look pretty corny. I think that is the case amongst all sports. So I watch a hockey movie and it looks fine to me, right? It looks like they're just playing hockey. Like, I can't tell that looks bad. When they're boxing, it looks like they're just boxing to me, right? To someone who grew up in a boxing gym, they probably look terrible. But I get what you're saying because you grew up around football. So when you watch a football movie, it looks bad. It looks corny because you watch so much football. You've been around football. It does do that. I think the same thing about baseball movies, basketball movies, all these sports is just because they're actors, right? They're not athletes.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I agree.
Shoot. There was a movie I was just thinking of. I can't remember what it was.
Horse racing movie?
I don't think it was horse racing. I want to say it was basketball. I can't remember. Can't remember. It'll come to me.
They're throwing in some hockey movies. Miracle, Slapshot.
Miracle's good. I didn't even think about Miracle. Miracle's a really good movie. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Blindside, football movie.
Yeah.
The one thing, when you were talking about Moneyball, the thing that I always kind of remember about The Blind Side is that Michael Orr did that interview right after it came out, and he said, for the most part it was fairly accurate, but the one thing that he was annoyed about.
Because they made him seem dumb, right?
Yeah, he said, I always knew how to play football.
Oh.
If there was the one thing I always knew how to do, Like, I didn't have much in my life, but I always knew how to play football. And it portrayed him as somebody that completely started from scratch. So, again, you just have to take it all. There got to be some liberties taken.
They're
with
telling
all
a
of
story,
this.
right?
They're telling a fun story, yeah.
They're telling a story. And if you tell life true stories, then you got to embellish them a little bit. Casey?
I was just going to say, are the best sports movies ones that are real or ones that are fake? The ones that are based off of a true story, because in my opinion, the ones that are based off of a true story are the best ones. The ones that the ones that are not based off of true story don't always seem to do as well. They don't give it as much.
I agree. Yeah, like Rudy's a great movie. The Blind Side's a great movie. Like all these true story things, those are great. Miracle, like we just mentioned, Hoosiers, all these stories that are based in reality, and then they embellish them a little bit. They're all great stories. Yeah, I'd say that's fair. Although my favorite sports movie is Bull Durham, and that's based off of nothing. It's just a love story. Baseball.
Yeah.
We had to watch Bull Durham every single bus ride in college. Our coach loved Bull Durham. And like the first few times you watch it, and this is still my favorite movie, so it didn't wear on me too thin, but the first few times you watch it, you're like, yes, Bull Durham. Then you're like, man, can we pop anything else in? Can we watch literally any other movie?
Come on, Coach.
Than Bull Durham today on this 2.5-hour trip to North Manchester, Indiana? All right, Casey, you're going to Great American Ballpark. If you guys didn't know, Great American Ballpark is celebrating its 20th season this season. So it opened in 2003. So would that make it its 21st season?
21st. Yeah, probably.
They're celebrating 20th anniversary, so it'd be their 21st year, whatever. It opened in 2003. It's now 2023. 2023 divided by or minus 2003. It's 20 years, so we'll say 20-year anniversary. You don't go to Great American Ballpark a whole lot, and I'd be interested to see the chat. Do you guys have any hacks? You know, that was the trendy word on the internet back in 2012, like life hacks. This is what you can do. Do you guys have any hacks when you go to Great American Ballpark, something you do that maybe not a lot of people know? Maybe a way to save a buck or two, maybe a way to get a better seat, maybe just an unsung hero in terms of concession stand food that you got to try every single time you go there. For me, one GABP hack is, if you guys haven't been, right to the right of the entranceway is a thing called the Garden Bar. If you don't know what the Garden Bar is, they sell $5 24-ounce beers before first pitch inside the stadium. So there's normally a big line if you wait till like right before first pitch, but if you get there, 30, 40 minutes before the game starts, they sell, essentially less than half price beer. It's $5 beer before the game. So whenever me and my dad or my brothers go, or me and my wife go, we go to the Garden Bar, $5 beer. Another thing that you can go to is food that I think is the best deal at Great American Ballpark is the Penn Station sandwich. The Philly cheesesteak and fries combo, in years past, was like $11.75, which is almost on par with what it costs if you go to Penn Station. Now, it's a 6-inch, it's a half sandwich, and you get fries, but it's like $11.75. I think that is by far the best deal when you go to Great American Ballpark in terms of food. Paul, you've been to Great American Ballpark quite a bit.
Many times.
Where is
I've talked a lot about the cheap seats. Just buy as cheap a seat as you can, and then you just go down, you move down, and you just sit wherever. I've only ever in one time been questioned on my ticket. And, I sit right behind the dugout. It's fine, especially for these non-crowded games. I'll park down by, like, Sawyer Point for $5 and then just walk. It's not that far of a walk. It's right there. You're just walking past Heritage Bank, and then you're right there. And it's $5 parking, $10 parking the closer you get, but it's still not that expensive. I'm used to $40 parking in D.C., so it's all scaled and inexpensive to me. But somebody points out in the chat, you can park for free in Covington and then just walk across the bridge.
Yeah, I do that.
I've done that a handful of times, not all the time, but I've done that a handful of times. I'm trying to think. Beer wise, you stole what I was going to say about the $5 beer. Although sometimes the line for that gets so long.
If you can also, they have the Budweiser truck
right outside
the stadium that you can take in, which is the same deal. It's $5.
Yeah.
$5, which one of those two are going to have a good line. But, yeah, those are Everett
Henry says a low-key flex. What did I say? Oh, in DC, $40 parking. That's not a flex.
I think awful. They were like, I think the flex was, I've only one time been questioned on my seat.
Oh, I mean, if you're getting questioned on your seat, you're doing something wrong. You just walk by, you just kind of wave to the usher so that they know who you are. Then you carry something down with you so that your hands are full so you can't get a ticket out. Oh, yeah.
You look like a guy who doesn't break rules, though. You look like an upstanding citizen.
Upstanding citizen.
So I could see the net question to you. Guys like me and Casey, we look like troublemakers. We look like we're out to cause some problems.
This guy right here?
Yes.
This guy right here?
I mean, you can't trust me.
He looks like a troublemaker. You never know. Yeah. Machine Room is good, although it's become a sports book now. I don't know if that is still – I've heard rumors that sports book is moving. Yeah, I don't know if it's staying or if it's moving or if the company that purchased that sports book is putting a second one in. But there is one going in where Gala Park used to be. Mm-hmm. I've heard rumors that sports book up there is moving over there. But I don't.
I've wondered about that sports book, which is a rival sports book, but they still have that window at the back end of the machine room that looks over the field, and I wonder if you could watch the game from there. I don't know. I did wonder that. There's also if you want a ticket and say the normal ticket's $15 to get in, the Cincinnati Bell deck out there in left field is $20, and they load on $10 for concession stands on your ticket. So it's essentially a $10 ticket because you're going to spend $10 in concessions anyways. So that's another hack that I have for you. If you do want to, kind of ball out one time, I mentioned this before, the Bow Tie Bar out there down the right field line, first base line, is $75 for all you can eat buffet before the game and 6 drink tickets. So if you want to have a nice little Friday evening, Bow Tie Bar. Casey, what are you most excited about? Second game already this season. You are currently leading the Chatterbox Stables in games attended.
Man, never thought that would happen.
Well, it hasn't happened yet. You got to go in the stadium and watch a game because Trace has been to 1.5. He went to opening day and then went to that Wednesday game that obviously got canceled.
Yeah, that's true.
I still have yet to go to one. I was going to go to that Wednesday. I've been to one. Went to that Monday game when they played the Reds, or the Reds played the Cubs.
Yeah, I'm still at one. I'm opening day.
So you're gonna be leading the standings here. What are you most excited about going down there?
I'm excited, I guess, and interested in the fireworks show because I was just, started the new year and they're doing that, and then Sky Rosa. I've yet to do that.
Are you gonna do it?
I've never done it.
I might.
It's good. I'm not even messing with you. It is. If you like both those things, it's good.
What do? Do you put the?
You get a coney, you get a slice of pepperoni, zala, or whatever kind of zala you want, and then you just put the coney right in the middle. You fold it up, and you make sure that you get everything in one bite.
Okay. I'll do it.
I'll
do it next time I go if I remember.
I think that they should sell Cincinnati chili pizza.
That has to be a thing.
Right? It makes too much sense. Right?
That has to be a thing at some pizza place around here. Has to be a thing.
Just normal pizza, tomato sauce and everything, but then they just drizzle the Cincinnati chili and maybe throw some onions in there. I don't know. Pepperoni to represent the hot dog.
Has to be a thing.
Has to be.
Pizza Chief. People are saying they do it at Pizza Chief, Pizza Chef.
Pizza Chef. That is a Hamilton thing. That is over in Millville. Right there on Millville Ave. Pizza Chef. Am I right?
Okay, so we're seeing a lot of people. Rapid Fire Pizza does it. Okay. So we'll have to get it.
All right. I've never had Pizza Chef, I don't think.
Oh,
I know exactly where Pizza Chef is. It's on Millville, right next to that bar, and that's actually where my dogs get groomed. Fun story about that. My dogs getting groomed one time. I called them the day before, this grooming place right there on Millville, right where Pizza Chef is here in Hamilton. Call and say, hey, can I get an appointment for my Great Pyrenees? Yada, yada. They say, yeah, come in at 9 a.m. I show up at this place at 9:10 in the morning. And I walk in, there's nobody in there, and this lady walks in the back. She is topless. This 65-year-old lady is not wearing a shirt, and she sees me and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and hustles and puts on a shirt. And And we just no. I mean, we're talking topless. And I saw the whole thing. And the best part is we just didn't acknowledge it when she came and took my dog and started grooming it. And then I got upcharged for how bad Rookie was while he was there. They said, we should charge you like $200 for the way he acted. And I was like, well, I mean, like, you also flashed me when I get there. So maybe I just get a class action lawsuit against you for – it was a wild event there at that place. I don't even know what it's called. I just know they charge me something different every time I go there. They just holler back like, how much for the golden retriever? $65. All right, $65 it is. So, yeah, that was my experience.
Good for you, Reed.
Thanks. It was something I really cherished.
Last tack before we move on to what the grand finale of what everybody is in here for. A financial hack at Great American Ballpark.
You got one?
I do. And Casey, so there's going to be some people walking around. They got neon shirts on.
Okay.
All right? Half of your money goes to a good place. And then you get the other half of your money back. And a lot of times, you get a lot more money back.
What's this?
It's called the 50-50 raffle.
What's
you
50-50
feel
raffle?
good about yourself because you're donating.
Yeah.
And then you get something in return, too. Hopefully. Keep it in mind. All right. Chat power rankings. Let's go, Reed.
All right. Chat power rankings. There has been a shakeup. This is, we had our performance reviews yesterday. Me, Casey, and Paul did. And this is the performance review of the chat. So there's been a shakeup at the top, as I teased earlier. And I've got a good reason for why everyone is in here. So I'll go ahead and do this.
Okay.
Starting out at number 5, we got USA veteran retired. I couldn't get his picture. I didn't want to go to his actual channel. But you know what? USA veteran retired. You know why I like him? First off, he always salutes us, right? He always says, good morning. But he's always on cue with what is happening in the show. Sometimes the Tom show has what's going on in the show, and then there's what's going on in the chat. USA Veteran is always locked in on what Tom's talking about, what you guys are talking about. So that's why I like it. Keeps us on task, streamlined focus. USA Veteran retired, who's not even in here right now, is number 5. And you got to salute a veteran.
I'm glad you brought that up because yesterday, while the entire debacle was going on with Casey's dictatorship in the chat, Tom was performing maybe 2 of his better interviews in the last couple of weeks, and it was completely thrown under the bus.
I didn't hear one thing from
Jake Arthur,
from either one of them, because Casey was being a tyrant, and I had to see that out. I'm still not eating lunch with you guys, so the wheel of lunch is just for you two at the end of this show.
Number 4.
Well, let's get the chat power rankings. All right, number 4. We've got AJ Worse.
Whoa!
And AJ Worse, we're not sure what you look like, so I put what I just assume you looked like, which is Channing Tatum. I assume you're a very handsome guy. AJ, we are sorry for what happened yesterday. Casey is a tyrant. There's no reason that you should have been kicked out of the chat. He is on another level, but you are a committed fan. You're always in the chat. And AJ, we salute you here at number 4.
All right.
Number 3, a mainstay here in these chat power rankings, Sir Boy Wonder. And Sir Boy, we saw too late that you asked us to go to the game yesterday, and obviously Casey took up on that offer tonight. So you guys should have fun. But Sir Boy, no one breaks news in this business quite like you. You are the best. You always break it after it's. You always say breaking after the news has been broken. We appreciate that. And we just appreciate you being around. You're always bring your A game in the chat. So we salute you here at number 3. And before we get to the final 2, I gotta check up on the chat. Sir Bombs, man. Where would our Discord be without Sir Bombs? Where would this chat be without Sir Boy? But at number 2, we mentioned a shakeup. Moving down from 2 to 1.
Whoa, demoted.
Leif Erickson. We're going to make him a moderator. We're going to give him control. He just doesn't show up every day. He leads the chat. He's a man of few words. He does have Viking blood. He is the compass in the chat, always pointing north. But man, he's got to be here more often, right? your best ability is availability, and we just need him to be here every day. And I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think you guys will agree with who number 1 is. So, without further ado, number 1 in the chat power rankings, and I got to tell you before I launch this, the reason is because objectively, this person is the funniest in the chat. They're constantly bringing their A game. And number 1 is Reed Mouse. I mean, how could it be anybody other than myself? I mean, I like what you guys bring every single day in the chat, but just no one does it like me. I mean, I get in there every day, cracking the most jokes. I keep it in there. I keep it lively. I mean, it's got to be number 1, Reed Mouse. And I mentioned Leif Erikson should be number 1 every week. I mean, how can it not be me every single week? Guys, thoughts on the chat, on the power rankings?
It could use some work. It's really crazy. Reed, you went from not ranked to number 1. I mean, like that's a crazy power shift in the power polls here.
But it's fair, right? I mean, like it'd be one thing if I don't know, I was just doing that to spark controversy or anything like that. But I really do deserve to be number 1. And I think that's objective. I don't think that's a subjective take. I think every single day in the chat, no one brings it like I do. So I've got to be number 1.
Just wild to me that Everett dropped off and Mousecop dropped off.
Yeah.
They have been 2 of our, some would say that you're silencing them.
Not silencing them. They can still.
Are you shadow banning Mousecop and Everett?
No, I want them to be better. Now Everett almost got on Tom today about sicking him about have the Bengals gotten worse? I always appreciate when Everett gets on that chain, but it's got to be better.
What about Bacon? Bacon's
I do like
around
Bacon.
Jordan.
I do like Bacon.
I mean, disrespect.
These poor
I
fellas,
can't
man.
speak for Reed, but I hope we're better next week.
Excalibur Iron Force. It's another one.
Excalibur Iron Force hasn't been in here in a while.
We need an honorable mention. We need an honorable mention sheet next week when we do these chat power rankings, and that would be Mouse Cop and Everett. I like Bacon, has been good. Jordan Earhart. How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Earhart? Hoosier fan. That's why we like Jordan around here. But yeah, chat power rankings. I can't wait to do it next Friday.
Next Friday.
Already non-controversial in our second week, so that's what's really great about this.
Absolutely. Can't wait for next week. All right, any baseball bets?
Baseball bets, the only 2 I got.
Rays.
You're going to ride that train?
I mean, hey, I've been saying it 3 days in a row. Why not? Keep riding.
I like the Angels. They play the Red Sox. They are minus 115 on the money line. They got Patrick Sandoval on the bump for the Angels. I think they're going to win tonight. And I also want to take the over in the Marlins D-backs games. You got Trevor Rogers and Madison Bumgarner on the mound. The line's set at 9. 2 pitchers that can bring their A game, but I just think a lot of runs are going to be scored. So give me the over in that one.
Okay.
Wheel of Lunch. What do we like here? Got to throw Sonic on there.
Yep, Sonic's on there. What do we got?
Sonic. I gotta sprint out of here for baseball. So put something up there that I put like 5 guys. Put
something that you can't have. There's no 5 guys around here.
Put a bunch of things up
there. Put
Mad
Mike's. Mad Mike's. Well, I can't go to lunch with you, so this is literally for Casey.
This is Casey's
wheel
of lunch.
This is my wheel of lunch?
This is your wheel of lunch.
Oh, man.
This is the chat show. That's all Box Lunch is. It's for the chat, which is why we have the chat power rankings, which are without a doubt true. Burger King. What else we got in here? Wheel of Casey's. Y'all deserve tacos. Burger King. Everett Henry. This wheel is a sham.
Wheel is a sham.
Anything else, chat? What else we got? I'm putting up Penn Station.
Penn Station.
It's a good one.
There you go.
All right. Good enough.
Run that. Oh, man. I don't want to go to Jocko's.
Penn Station.
Penn Station's. Didn't want to go today anyways. The one day that Paul can't go. Paul, who we got on the bump for the Muskies?
Good question.
Don't know the Friday starters?
Great question. They've mixed it up. Doubleheader, then the Big B. Pigeon comes up.
No, I want to go to Mad Mike's. Darn it. You know what? Honestly sounds good as salad. Oh, sorry, Mouse Cop.
No Sonic.
No Sonic today. $11 in a row, sir boy. Doing all right.
Uh-oh.
Wendy's.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. This is a massive.
This is a big L.
This is. You guys want to talk about repenting? Oh no. Jocko's.
Burger King.
Burger King is better than Jocko's. I love Hamilton, but man, Jocko's is a tough sell.
It's Burger King.
BK Lounge. Let's go to the BK Lounge. Guys, thank you for joining in. This has been Box Lunch. We'll see you back on Monday. This is the chat show. It's presented by Betfred Sportsbook.
It's been a great week. Thanks, everybody.
I hope, Casey, you enjoy Great American Ballpark tonight. I hope the Reds lose by 36 runs. And I'll see you guys on Monday. For Paul and Casey, thank you for watching. This has been Box Lunch. See ya.